Yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh. We live in a constant state of anxiety. I'll tell you that much. And then when something huge happens, we're like, Jensu must do better. Nonsense, man.
You are having croissants while you're having this hunger discussion.
There's always nice food there in those meetings.
Of course there is. Thank God to working from home. They don't have croissants
anymore.
King David Studio Podcast.
I have the award-winning, one of the biggest artists in the world, in my opinion, Simphiwe Dana. How are you?
I'm surviving.
Your voice is much stronger. Your singing voice is much stronger than your speaking voice. Is that true?
I get that a lot, yes.
But you're so calm.
I don't know where the singing voice comes from.
You would sell me insurance on the phone. I would buy.
This is how I speak.
This gentle.
Yes.
And you also have this, and I use these phrases deliberately, you have this gentle demeanor about you. But unogba feisty. Go Twitter. Yo, nogulwa. Where does that come from? Where does that personality come from?
I think actually, even as I'm fighting, I'm still like, if you were with me, I would still be using the same softness to say the things that I'm saying to you. I think the issue with Twitter is a lack of tone. You know, abantu are not there with you to hear, about uthetha kanjani. They're only seeing the words and then they assume maybe that there is a violence behind the words. But it's more perhaps that the words themselves are strong.
Yes, that's true.
It's not because the person speaking them is like...
Is fighting.
Yeah, so I think really with Twitter it's a lack of that.
And it can't help itself, that medium, because that's what it is.
Yes, no, totally.
It's like a misunderstanding of text messages or emails for that matter.
Yes.
Where you read it and you already up in arms and no one to
yes, exactly.
And so with Twitter, it continues forever.
No, but I think also it's a matter of the topics. They're very contentious issues, where people feel very strongly. And I think also when you come out with new ideas, people don't take kindly to their world being changed. Whether it's from a good place or not, and they will fight. But
that's natural, isn't it?
Yes,
humans?
No. It's totally normal. So I think there's also that does not get spoken about, because I could say something very simple, and then everyone just is up in arms. I'm like, but I said something very simple and very factual. Why is everyone fighting?
I guess that's what happens in that world.
Yes. So I think it's more of that the issues themselves are very contentious issues, firstly. And then also like a lack of tone.
Who was home when you were born? By this I mean, what was the setup?
My mom says that I stayed with her for maybe the first year of my life while she was breastfeeding me, and then I couldn't stay with her for long. I think after her maternity leave was done, I couldn't stay with her because she was still a student nurse at the time. So then she had to leave me with relatives. So I don't really remember much, but when I then came to, as a human being, started having memories and remembering, I'm staying in Butterworth, in a village called Mgagasi or Mayaluleni, with my grandparents. My mom is not there, and there are a lot of us grandkids, cousins. We don't even know whose mother who this one's mother is.
Oh no!
Any of the cousins.
So what? Your mother and other cousins of your mom,
yes,
they brought the kids to the grandparents.
Yes, like relatives, even distant ones.
Yeah,
like Ikaya Kulu would be where all the kids would come and be deposited when people go to work.
Go to work where? In the Eastern Cape still, or in other parts of the country in some instances? For
my mom, it was, in fact, even for my father, it was the Eastern Cape, but, different parts of the Eastern Cape. For instance, when I was in Butterworth, my mom was in Lusikisiki, Bambisana. That's where she was a student nurse. And that's why I couldn't stay with her, because she was staying in student digs there.
Yes. And I imagine she completed the nursing and didn't say, come now, I'm ready to.
No, immediately came to get her kids.
Yeah.
By then it was myself and the sister that comes after me, and she had just given birth to another one.
Yes. So the
Yes.
three of you, I like how you say another one, like you forgot her or his name.
No, I haven't
There's
forgotten
another one.
anyone's name. I'm saying, perhaps I was noting that another one,
Yes.
because as a firstborn, there were times when it fell on me.
Yeah.
To take care of these ones that come after me. I have to change the nappies and feed the kids before I rush to school and then
Is it
rush back.
a big gap of time?
No, it wasn't. Like the one where I said that I did
Yes,
another
the
one.
third
She's
one.
5 years younger than me,
Okay.
right? So it was, and then the one who came after me is just a year,
Yeah.
if
Wow.
not less. But there's this thing called there's this psychological term that I've just learned of. Parentified kids.
Okay.
Where
Help teach all of us.
where the firstborn or the oldest girl then gets tasked to help raise the other kids.
They become parents very early.
Become parents.
How does the story end of this parentified kids?
It ends with an adult who never had a childhood, who then psychologically will have to go via having that childhood. Nobuna 50.
What? No way. That's not a good ending.
There will be a rebelliousness that will set in at some point where, I don't want responsibility.
I've done this already.
Yeah, I've done my part. No one must ask me anything. And even for my life in jail, I just want to spring chicken and not care about consequences for a while. No. Just like you tell yourself, it's just for a while, because it's something rebels in you if you've never had a childhood.
And the reason I ask this is you're clearly a parentified child yourself.
Totally, yes.
And that's why I went straight to ask you, how does the story end? And you didn't paint the gloomiest, or rather the prettiest of pictures.
No. Like you end up having to deal with all of that at some point, because you will reject it. It will get to a point where something snaps.
Oh no. Yeah.
Because literally no one has ever thought, like, how are you doing? Your well-being, kukwa is umntana, being taken care of. Like, you are the one who's doing that for everyone else. It has never been done for you, and you are not expected to expect that.
No.
Right?
You're stuck with this situation.
Yes. And usually when it comes out, then if you had any trauma as a child as well, it will come out around the same time. Now it's this whole big ball of mess that you have to deal with.
I don't like the word mess based on the question I'm about to ask. Mm-hmm. How has it ended for you? And it hasn't ended, but are you there?
I think definitely it has not ended, but something shifted for me, like when my mother passed. I think we hold out a lot of issues against our parents. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why and all of this, right? Because at the time those things happened, we were helpless kids, and those things should have been done. But as you grow, and you also have kids yourself, and you start looking at your own shortcomings as a parent, you can have then sympathy for your own parent as well.
Now that you're sitting on their chair,
yes,
or wearing their shoes,
yes,
now you can see, oh hell,
yes,
she had no choice.
Yes. So for me, when my mom passed, that whole thing of holding out something against her, but why didn't I have a childhood? I didn't have a childhood. I was always responsible. All of this, I took my sister when she was 16.
Wow.
And I was 23, 24.
Yes. The youngest one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't I have a childhood? Why didn't, and even when I was older, it continued. I've never been given a break, this and this and this. And, I was blaming her for so much.
Did you ever have the conversation?
No, we did.
Yeah.
We did. And I tried to understand, but I still didn't. And I think that we can be harsh on our parents, but for good reason.
Yeah.
But we forget that they're also psychological beings. They don't have it all figured out.
That's true.
So when she passed, I no longer had someone to blame.
Oh.
That's one. And so almost overnight, I had to grow up and
literally overnight.
grow up again.
Yeah, literally overnight, you had to realize that I can't channel this energy, this anger anywhere anymore.
Yes. Now I have to be the matriarch of our family as the firstborn. I have to be go. So okay, since then I've gone through like a lot of reflection. I can safely say that it has put me in a calmer space than before, in a space where I want to be accountable, because it's going to require that for me to be a reasonable matriarch.
Absolutely.
Who was stable.
Because you can't be useful if you are carrying so much as well. What use do we have of you? And now, so you feel you've offloaded some part of you from that moment.
I mean, it's a process. I'm still going through it. But yes, I no longer have I have that wounded child thing.
Because the limp is not great. To be limping all the time. And I guess when suddenly the foot is no longer aching, you can do more, I guess.
Yes.
You make very little reference to your dad. Tell me why that is.
My dad was not a present father. He did not carry out his parent duties.
Yeah.
And I also grew up in an abusive home because of him.
Yeah.
So I do get triggered a lot when we speak about deadbeats and this and that and all of that, because my father was one of them.
Has the conversation between the two of you in your adult time ever taken place?
You remember I was a parentified kid, right?
Yes.
So even when I was young, it was my job to fix him.
And cover for him.
Yes, fix him, talk to him.
Ooh.
Help him sober up and do all of this. I literally taking care of my siblings.
You probably have somebody on your back.
If a TV is broken, it's up to me to fix.
Shy on the side.
So I did also try to reach out because, I gave up on my father when I was 19. And since I started staying with him at around 7-8 years of age, it was my job to take care of him, to fix him, to make him right for the family and all of this. And to take care of us, and he was not into it. I remember him even asking, why should I educate girls? Why should I waste my money? So he was really not interested, and literally we were all girls.
So you got a.
We were all girls. Yeah. We had one brother who unfortunately passed on when he was very small. Yeah. So this thing of him, like, why should I educate girls? They're going to get married or what's a meter and never take care of them. Why should I waste my money on them?
They won't be my kids at some point.
Yes.
Belonging to a different family.
Yes, or even besides, bazo meter and all of my money wasted in educating them.
Wow. And that was his state of mind, essentially.
Yes, that was his state of mind. I don't think I've ever said this. And yes, so that was his state.
Is he still around?
No, my father also passed on last year.
Oh, that recent.
Yes, my parents both passed on last year.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Did you have a relationship with your dad in his last years of life?
No. Like I said, this thing of, a parentified kid, you'll get to a point where you're like, actually,
I'm done.
I'm done.
What?
All of you. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah. Wow.
I did as someone who, like my father, as a kid when I had no business having to fix him and all of this, about things that he's supposed to be doing. Like I should not be as a child. Like why am I asking my own father for textbooks?
Yeah.
Like even 5 rand. Back in the days, like those schools, like it was 5 rand, 8 rand to register for the whole year. Yes,
school fees was 8 rand.
Like something so small. Like why? Ooh. So and we never used to bother him, and unless umama like I've tried everything. Just go. Maybe your father can do something this time. So we never really used to bother him unless it really was necessary.
Yeah.
Huh. So when I was 19, my first year.
Yes, that's
first year of college. I'm doing IT, and umama shem uzamile. Now I'm just left with one textbook.
What?
And this textbook, I think it was like something like 3,000 rands or something. Ooh. Like if I'm doing IT, ingagale textbook.
Yeah.
And umama uthi I've tried everything. I don't have. Please just try your father. It's just one thing. Maybe you can do something. Call my father, I have this problem, blah, blah, blah. And his response just left so much to be. I don't even want to say like what his response was. But that's the day that I told him that, I'm washing my hands off you. I'll never bother you again.
Yeah.
And I never bothered him again.
What?
I never bothered him again. I did try. And I said to him, if you ask for forgiveness, I'll forgive you, but I need you to ask for forgiveness.
You're still helping him.
Yes.
Even then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I need you to ask for forgiveness. And he's like, I didn't do anything any other man would not have done in his own home. I'm like, okay,
I'm out.
So I'm out.
And that was it?
Yes.
So there was essentially no relation?
No, not really. Not really. If I didn't try, he didn't bother either.
Do you find that is at the core of a setup of South African black families, where we find this story play out so many times? And because I sit here and wonder, I was counting the other day of the number of people I know who were raised largely by their mothers and the dads were not there. Mm-hmm. As well as everybody else in South Africa, we're dealing with so many challenges with men of all sorts. Mm-hmm. I want to point at a particular time, moment, thing that is the cause of this, and nobody can ever point at that. Why do you think we are like this, Tina, South African black men? Oh, and I'm saying South African black men because that's my only reference. Why do you think we are like this? And as someone that has lived through it. I was raised by a single parent. My dad passed away when I was 3. I have no reference of what men do in a household. Your experience is the worst version of it, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm sure others have much, much worse because everybody's story is worse than the next. What is in your take? What made this guy the person he became?
I think this current version of patriarchy doesn't teach accountability. It teaches that as a man, everything belongs to you. It doesn't teach that as a man, you create things, and those things belong to you because you create them. Because we can say that we've got an issue with patriarchy or we don't. Because I believe that there is a version of patriarchy that is tolerable.
You had to be. Do you know what word I was thinking when you were thinking of that?
Yeah.
That is useful.
I mean, this patriarchy that we have now is premised on a patriarchy that worked for a certain period.
Yes.
Right? But that period was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We don't live in the wilderness anymore now where we need a man to have muscles so like they can fight off an
bear.
Elephant, whatever.
Yes.
So now we are left with this. But in Doni, that's no longer useful. There's a word for it.
Sure, there is. I can't.
White,
a white elephant.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good reference.
Yes.
But
yeah, it's no longer applicable.
Absolutely.
Right? It has to be forced. People have to literally hide who they are. Like I don't know, pretend. Like we are pretending it now instead of actually it being something that is concocted because it's useful for society. And it's become very destructive and toxic.
And the description that you put, it's not like something dirty on a shirt that you can just wash off. It sounds like we have to throw the shirt away.
I'll make you like an example, for instance. When a woman earns more than a man, that is complete blasphemy. You can't. According to patriarchy,
yes,
like you are weak as a man if your woman earns more than you. Right? And therefore, even now where you've got this thing, people are going to laugh at me because my woman is stronger than me financially. Right? So now like the woman has to make herself feel small, and act like yonke mali yakho, give you her bank card, and must be the one who pays for things, must be seen to be paying for things. Like now you are driving her car as well. When you guys fight, she's the one who must leave her own house because it must seem like it's your house.
Wow.
You see now how like this thing is becoming twisted because it doesn't work anymore that a woman stays home and
No, not at all.
But now, because we are forcing it to work, now a woman must make herself feel small so we can maintain this
facade. This
facade.
Yes. It can end well.
And perhaps that's why we're seeing this increase in GBV, femicide, because women are refusing that. Like we are not our mothers. We are refusing to make ourselves small so that you can, and then because this hold of patriarchy is so strong over men, the frustration and the fear of being seen as weak drives you into being violent, to force.
Because it's the only thing I physically have that I can use against you.
Yes, like to force.
It's my muscles.
Yes, like to force a woman to adhere to this thing.
Yeah.
Right?
And that naturally that will not end.
Yes, and the thing is this, we are holding on to our cultural traditions. It's understandable because so much has been taken away and stripped away from us, like when it comes to our identity. But we may have lost track of how all of these things came about. Why, for instance, umhlolokazi wears black as fihle, because that's not our thing. Like we've adopted all of these things that are not necessarily according to our culture or our traditions, and we are holding on to them for dear life, and we're refusing to evolve past that.
A conversation like this, because I recorded a little thing where I'm having conversations with myself. It's literally the way we shot it. I'm sitting on the other side. I do a speech and I come this side and I do a different speech. I'm answering this guy. And the focus of it was on this very subject, on, the patriarchal society that we exist in and all of that. And I create different characters. And one of the characters was saying, there's nothing wrong with this. Where we are, men must be strong in the family. Men must be the dominant force. Women have their place and they must respect that place. We don't all. The reason why we have more muscles and to lift this table with one hand and you don't is because of how we are created. And that should translate in everything else that we do in our lives and so forth and so forth. You listen to it and it's complete bull. And you sit back and say, as bull as it is, you find it in a lot of homes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like something that no one will change the mind of a guy like that. Never.
Forget.
Yes.
Forget. In fact, when you try as a woman, especially, you are being insolent. You don't know your place. You understand culture. These city girls, this and that.
Yes.
Yay, you'll never win.
And that guy now is no longer Emaplazin. He's Lalin. He's here.
No, he's here.
He's here. He has a big house.
He's in your bed too.
Yeah, he's right here. You can't tell him anything.
With his PhD.
You can't tell him anything.
You can't tell him nothing. Nothing. Like, listen, and I've said this many times that, please, Tina, we just as women, we just antagonize men. We can't talk to them. Like, how do you talk to someone who thinks that you're a second-class citizen? Or like, who looks at you the same way as they look at a 10-year-old child.
That's it, yes. Or Ujabu who does your garden.
Like see, like they are not fully developed. Like I was sponsoring about to equal. So how do you even? And this is why we always call upon the men who are woke.
Yes, to say,
stand up for us. Bangabayeki, like when they say like nasty things about women online, say, bro, actually I don't agree with you. And it always defeats them when it's other men who say, actually,
say that, no, you're wrong.
We are wrong, my brother. You are very wrong. So, or in fact, please don't count me in that nonsense.
So the role of the other man is very key in the story.
It's very, very key.
Because
it's everything.
I was about to say, because your voice.
Yeah, no. My voice is not important. In fact, when I speak, then I get accused of hating men, this and that. I will not get a break. Like a woman's pain is nothing to men. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. In fact, it's our portion. That's why, like us speaking about this, no, man, it's your place. Like, just be happy with your place. So it's not really us who can change men. In fact, we just antagonize them instead when we speak of this thing. And we obviously cannot speak without emotion. When things are affecting us this deeply. People have been raped. People, have lost, like parents to femicide, siblings, the trauma is very real, and you cannot expect people that are that traumatized to not be emotional. That is just, it's not reasonable.
Do you think we as men, woke or not, or the very guy we spoke of, who is in your bed, who is this clear about your role as a child, and yet they call you my wife?
Yeah.
Do you think us, collectively, all the men, do you think we understand the magnitude of this challenge?
No. Kaloku, as they say, like, privilege is blinding.
Yeah.
You think it's your God-given position. And anyone who questions that, how dare they? They are uncultured, they are this, they are that. It's very clear. It's as clear as that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll encounter the same thing with racism too. Privilege is blind to itself, completely blind to itself.
No, yeah, you don't realize that.
Yeah, like you think, it's my God-given privilege position, and if you are questioning it, you're being blasphemous.
Yeah, and very often the privileged, when the one who are not privileged are asking for not even an equal right, something. These ones immediately think you're about to take away my privilege.
Yes, like do you want to wear pants now with this?
Wow.
This privilege is always so much under threat because it only lives off the back of women's oppression. That's the only way it survives. When it gets questioned by women who no, but I'm a human being like you. Why should I be relegated to this?
Yeah.
It doesn't survive scrutiny.
How do you collectively, again, as women, exist in this world? And naturally, it's such an innocent perspective and question for me, because we are perpetrators. We are quite dangerous. And yet you have to live alongside us. And half the time, everything is okay. We are in the same car. I remember this lady told me of a boyfriend. They were dating or just recently married. And she just had a promotion at work. And she was driving. And the guy is sitting on the side of the passenger seat. And she makes this announcement that, remember that thing? What thing? The promotion at work. Oh, okay. It's a couple having a conversation. And he reduced the volume. Quietly. Did not say, well done, congratulations, nothing. He reduced the volume. They carried on. It was quiet. You expect something from your partner. Positive, hopefully. And the guy said, and she asked, are you going to say anything about it? He said, what do you have to say? And it was tense in the car. You won't believe it. She poked some more. Good how? Come on. This is good for our family.
Yes.
He got angry at that scenario to a point where such an old story. I wonder if she would see this and remember this moment. And wamshaya ngeklap for poking at why are you not saying anything about this. And I remember thinking, she told me the story years later to say, you have no idea where I've been. I was in this situation with this guy. And I remember thinking, what would propel a person or to end up reacting that way in a scenario like that? That's supposed to be positive, celebratory, great for everyone. What happens? And that's why I ask, how do you guys exist alongside us? We are such dangerous animals.
We live in a constant state of anxiety. I'll tell you that much. For instance, now I've stopped even jogging. I started feeling very, very unsafe increasingly. Being followed by cars when I'm jogging, even security cars, like security companies. I even had to call my own security company that, no, every time I'm jogging, there's this
guy.
Car, like he's always driving slowly, like next to me, trying to have a conversation with me, like, and harassing me, like all of these things. I stopped because I was fearful. Whenever my kids go out, I have anxiety until they come back. We have become very overprotective of our children for very good reason. So our kids literally live in gated, spaces where like they don't even go on the streets by themselves for some of us, because we are fearful of what could happen to them. So we are not coping. Like we live in a constant state of anxiety, and we are raising overly protected children as a result.
Interesting. I had a chat with my niece. She wanted to drive to Mamelodi 2 days ago, a day ago, in the evening, around 7, 8 in the evening. And she was just making, I have to go, I have to do this with my grandma, or my mom, her grandma. And I said to her, you seem too comfortable with this decision of driving around at night. And she said, what's the problem? And I remember thinking, there's a big problem with being comfortable with being out in the evening as a young girl in this country.
Yeah.
You Google the worst countries for women in the world.
Yeah.
We don't come out in the top 10. We are number 1.
And everyone doesn't want to believe that, hey? Like literally, hey, do I even know a man in my life who knows a rapist?
Of course not.
So many women have been raped, but no man knew no rapist.
A rapist, including the very man.
Like in my own circle of friends, like about 70% are dealing with huge traumas.
How do you?
But apparently, like there are no rapists. It's just women who've been raped, but no rapists. And then when something huge happens, we're like, gents must do better. Nonsense, man.
Is there hope for your son, for example, a young kid that's coming up? Is there hope that they might become different animals?
I am fearful of that, right? And I'll tell you why. Society may prove to be more powerful than the teachings that you teach your child at home. Once they leave your compound and they go out there, society teaches them that your position will be like this, but only if you do A, B, C, and D. So if you want to be successful, if you want to be respected, if you want to do all of these things, you must be like this, right? And the minute your child leaves your house, they're getting education from left, right, and center.
Everywhere.
And sometimes from people that are influential to their lives, I'll make you like an example that's a general example. For instance, when Jacob Zuma successfully deposed Mbeki and then came into power with his mentality or philosophy around gender relations, etc., etc., etc. How he objectified women. I'm not even talking about now like the trial, just how he spoke of women and, like how he was handling anything like around women, even calling, very professional women, little girls, etc., etc. I started noticing very, very quickly that all the misogynists started coming out of the woodworks and openly saying very misogynistic things that they had not been saying before.
Yeah.
Right? Because, we all look up to power. Right? Yes. Whether it's in our communities, it's in our governments, it's in our schools, it's the guy at the street corner that we think is very street smart and all of this. I started seeing that and I was like, influence can spread like wildfire. Like you see also what happened in the US with Trump as well.
Of course.
All the bigots started coming out of the woodworks.
70 million people saw this guy. There's nothing wrong with him. So I guess it goes back to the point that society may overpower your teachings at home.
Yes. So like that's the biggest fear for me. And then there's that thing called intaba, ulaluko, and the fear of what our kids get taught. Umntana kumkhulisa uyu-one, a single parent. Hey, up and down, and they go there and they come back. They don't want to wash dishes. They don't want to be told by you, right? They can't be told by women. Yeah, okay, what the hell?
Jeez.
So you can always just pray that your teachings and also that perhaps you've lived your life in a way that has influenced your child.
Stronger than this.
But don't ever think that you're the only one who's raising your child.
Yeah.
And therefore blame yourself when your teachings don't stick, because the world out there may be more influential than you.
It brings me to the very point you're raising. We spoke right from the beginning about single parenting, which is mainly done by women.
Yes.
And they're not raising only girls. They're also raising these very boys.
Yes. I'm
a perfect example of someone who was raised by a mother. And we still have these boys who turn out to be such grave animals. And I wonder, if we were raised by this gentle soul, how the hell did you end up this way? I guess you've answered this question.
Is that maybe at your Ntaba experience, who's going to tell you women at this, they're second class, they're this and that, and your daughter if you don't. Yeah. I'm not saying like that's what gets taught. I don't know. I'm not there.
I have no idea myself.
But I'm talking about sometimes the attitude that these now men come back with from Ntaba, it can be very telling.
Wow.
So or
it's a loop. This
or maybe that teacher that you really like. Eskolweni, or that friend of yours, who comes from a very toxic environment and now has become a bully and everyone thinks that they are cool. Like there can be a lot of influence outside of the home environment, and we must never discount its importance, because at times, like I said, it can prove to be more influential than your parents' teachings.
Yeah. South Africans, we laugh very quickly at serious things. What do you think that is about us?
I think it's a trauma response.
Okay.
I think it's a coping mechanism. And the more things fall apart, the harder we laugh.
That's exactly what I see.
Yeah. It's a coping mechanism, because what else can we do? Yes. What else can we do?
But where do we get it? Is it clearly related to apartheid and everything that we went through? Why are we reactive to that in that way historically? Where do we get that as an entire nation?
I don't know how historic it is. I mean, is it a product of post-92, 94?
Yeah.
Or has it always been like that?
There before?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we would have to bring in the older guys to find out if it's always been like that. Or it's a matter of a newfound apathy.
Yeah.
That comes out of a feeling of being overwhelmed, everything falling apart.
Does it come across as being apathetic to you? Oh, it's because we can have multiple personalities where we are serious when we're serious, we laugh when we laugh, and it's the same person. Does it come across an overall sense of, whatever, we'll be okay, it doesn't matter?
I don't think it's a matter of we will be okay. It's a matter of, let me just look away. There's a train wreck over there, and if I focus on it, I'm going to freak out. Let me just find a distraction.
And walk past.
Yes, and not deal with that, because I feel helpless to do anything about it, So it's not apathy, more of, I don't know. I mean, because if you literally would look at things, how they are in the country right now, it's anxiety inducing.
But don't you think, say the last statement you made, don't you think then we need more activism now than ever in the history of our time?
I think, I'm prescribing so many things.
No, it's your thoughts.
But what is it that we are fighting for? I think there needs to be like a kind of mental regroup. We seem to have lost, an ideology, perhaps.
Yeah.
What are we fighting for? And who are we fighting? I think that's part of the apathy as well.
Yeah.
People have lost sight of where are we in the struggle? What are we? Is there even still a struggle?
What is it?
Yeah, okay, what is the struggle for now? But having said that, I am noting it's not a resurgence. What is it? There's no word resurgence, right?
Yeah.
But that thing.
Yes, a resurgence. Actually,
it's not a resurgence because it has never been there.
It never surged.
Yes, so it's a surgence, if there's such a word. I feel like us failing, on the physical revolution, if you may put it like that.
What is the physical revolution?
Like this taking up arms, Gallo, and standing up and standing for something,
Have we failed?
I don't know, man. Okay, let me just say that we are in a very strange place right now, or space right now. Maybe let me speak for myself. I'm finding myself in a very weird place where I feel like all of these aspirations that I had for SA, they don't seem like, they may see the light of day at the rate that we are going at. All of these things that we dreamt for the country, that whole dream, Gamandela, like we understand like there's a long walk, but, all of these ideals that we stood for and people died for and all of this, It's a very heavy time for people who have been activisting for a while.
Yeah.
To find ourselves at this point where we have to ask, what are we fighting for, and who are we fighting?
Yeah.
After all of these years of aspiring for the country to be like this and dreaming it into, and actually even actively trying to work towards realizing that dream. But that being said, I feel like there is a generation that feels a strong ownership of the country and its trajectory. And they're very, very young. They're still very fiery.
I wanted to ask you, which one is it of the many generations that we still have?
I think people in their 20s, because like those to me are young.
Yes, very young.
Right?
Yeah.
Those who are entering into institutions of higher learning, like they're coming in with a fire.
The freedom, what's that? The free education age group.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then those also are concerned about climate change and all of these things. There's new blood that's coming in. And that new blood, perhaps it's up to us who've been around for a while to also help nurture them. Yeah. And show them the pitfalls of activism, so that people don't get burned out, etc., etc.
Because it's easy to just stop.
Yes.
Because ultimately life takes over.
Yes.
Suddenly you have a child, you have a job. You're no longer in education, rather institution of higher learning. Your life is just taken over.
Yes.
And for the longest time, you were the biggest Sainova out there. And suddenly you're no longer a participant at all. You take calls and some of them you just blue tick them and move on.
Yes. Because you also feel like, you've given enough of your time to that part. I mean, like life is... very layered.
Yeah.
Like life is very layered. You may feel like at 40, you've done your part in there. You are still a part of it, but not as active as before because there's a different aspect of your life that you wanna.
That's true.
Take care of. And in a roundabout way, when you take care of that, it also goes back like to your activism. There's different ways of doing it, and. Even being despondent doesn't stop one from still believing and being an activist.
That's true.
But it may make them withdraw a little bit, and push others to the front.
Something that I hear in all of this, and that's the sad thing about human creation. We are the ones who create the problems as humans. Now, not yourself, not me necessarily, but as other fellow humans. We create these problems, and then there's activists who are trying to fight this thing. You almost want and wish we would just sit down and have a chat and say, why can't we just live together and be in harmony? What is it about us? And I'm asking philosophical questions, I'm aware. What is it about us that, particularly in South Africa, that we can't seem to find each other? We know what South Africans need. The average South Africans need a better life. And not even a small sector of our society, the largest sector of our society needs a better life. And there are those who easily can make it happen. But for some reason, and I'm not saying buy them a luxury house, give them a decent place to live, a safe environment, healthcare, education that works, and so forth and so forth. What is it about us that we seem to be struggling with such small details in the bigger picture? The reason I ask it in this convoluted way of saying humans is that our government is made up of people who have similar experiences, who go home, who have cousins who also need a better education, who has a daughter who died because they went to the wrong hospital, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And I say wrong, a hospital that couldn't provide for them. And that's probably why I'm asking probably the longest question I've ever asked on this podcast. And I'm hoping you'll give us something we can work with.
Where do I even start? Okay, if I were to use just our government, for me personally, and it's something that I've said over many years, being in the trenches and being in government were two different things.
Yeah.
Right? And there perhaps wasn't proper training for a lot of, especially like around the first cabinet and ministries and all of this. There seems that people were not necessarily qualified for the positions that they were given. Right? And I do believe that everyone went in there meaning well. They're going to do a great job and all of this, but deployment, cadre deployment, like whatever you call it, people were not trained for the positions, for the position of governing a country. Right? But they went in there meaning well, but not really well versed.
Yes.
And therefore they would make mistakes, that cost the country a lot because they're trying to do their jobs and be seen to be proactive and coming up with ideas and doing this and doing that. And then the longer that things were not working out, because I'll tell you one thing, kuyasetshenzwa government.
I know.
Yeah, I've seen these political principles and nabantu babo, they work.
I was once in a meeting, and sorry I interjected, on a Sunday. I got a call. It was a government department, and it was around 12. They said, we've sent you a meeting request Sunday. We send you a meeting request and we're hoping you can attend. I'm thinking it's for tomorrow or the day after. I said, when? It's like in an hour. It's like it's Sunday afternoon when people are having their 7 colors. But and it's important that you attend. When I clicked that invite, the government minister is in there as well. It's like, this is a big meeting. There's literally 20 people in that meeting. And it's an intense meeting. And it lasted for 4 hours. So your statement is so correct.
No, like I've watched them and I was like, they work hard. And it's not like they work hard now and then they can relax for 2 weeks. No, it's jumping from that one to that, to that, to that. They don't rest. So it's not a matter of, especially at the higher echelons of government, it's not a matter of, at the lower echelons, there's a lot of dead wood. This must be said. And it delays a lot. But at the higher levels. So my point was that then, because nothing is working out, no matter how hard they work, because, first of all, like the departure point is not great because the person does not know the job.
That's true.
Right? So no matter how hard they work, they just keep making mistakes and things are not working out. Like their dreams of doing this, they are not coming to fruition. Right? So then a helplessness sets in. And then people they just go through the motions of working, but they're not really doing anything now because they feel helpless.
Yeah.
And now, because they're feeling helpless, now like their eyes start to wonder, oh, and then corruption sets in.
Oh boy.
You know?
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like it is very important now that we look into people being qualified for the positions that they are in. We can no longer afford cadre deployment. It has caused a lot of destruction.
That is true.
Even in SOEs, etc., etc.
You find it everywhere. And, it's a sad reality. Mandela did say, I don't know if these are his words, it's a long walk. Once you reach the top, you realize that there are many more to come.
Mm-hmm.
Are we able to see that and accept that there's a lot more? Maybe we are expecting too much too quickly, or are we fair in expecting something now?
I think we are more than fair in expecting something. I think that we are more than, in fact, we are way overdue for something.
Right now.
We should... Okay, I know that this is not an easy ask, but we could have prioritized education and quality education, which is what the kids were fighting for. Those things should not have been a bone of contention in any sort of manner. And then obviously the issue of housing, which is also, lagging behind quite greatly.
Yeah.
We know that in our healthcare sham, we are trying, we have the issue of overpopulation, or rather of the systems being overwhelmed, is something else.
I've had a number of politicians on that very chair. And one or two have said, if you make promises to someone, to little kids, that you'll buy them ice cream, when you come back, you'll have ice cream when you come back from work. And they see you walk through the gate, the expectation is quite clear. They are happy to see you, great, but immediately after the greetings, ice cream ape. And we've had jobs on posters. We've had a better life for all on posters, houses.
Constitution, everything is great on paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why the question, are we overdue for something, or are we rushing the results? Maybe we're meant to reach the land of milk and honey in 40 years, not in 8 years.
Why not, David? What do you think? Looking at everything and how things are right now.
We've made too many mistakes, some too obvious, some too blatant, some too unbelievably dumb, if you were to simply put it. And we, for some reason, that thing that you said, we see a train wreck and we look the other way. There are people who should not be able to look the other way. They don't have a right to look the other way. And those are government officials. They cannot look the other way when the education system, as an example, is falling apart. And instead, they celebrate 72%, yet there's been a 20% dropout rate, and so forth. There are people who in our society, and maybe it ends up becoming you and I, those people, but there are people who do not have the right to look away when there's problems, particularly if we simplify it and say, you have a budget to solve this problem, and you go to work every day and you do nothing about this problem. Instead, and going back to government officials' work, they have a lot of meetings. There are, for me, too many meetings. And I've said this many times, even on my radio show, that you cannot discuss hunger for too long because it's not getting better while you are talking. They're hungry, stay hungry. And you're having croissants while you're having this hunger discussion. There's always nice food there in those meetings. Of course there is. Thank God to working from home. They don't have croissants anymore. Do you see my point? So that is really where I say you cannot have all the money in the world. We're not a poor country. And yet we have hungry people. And it is the worst thing about, and this is an example I've used many times, the worst thing about having a braai is that your whole neighborhood will know. You can't hide. The smell will go
and the
up.
music.
And the music, the laughter. Yes. And the worst thing about having a braai in our yard here is that the neighbors haven't eaten for days, and we know this. That is the worst thing you can ever do. And we live in a society where there are people who have no right to let those type of scenarios play out, where braai is happening, the neighbors haven't eaten. That's Sandton and Alexander. And many other places, Kwalanga in Cape Town, and many other places that are right next door to places that are doing really well. And you sit back and say, wow, man, and we are here and we are cool with it. And maybe when we're done with this conversation, we'll realize that it's probably us that should do something about it.
I actually was saying the other day that there has to be another way that we can rebuild our communities, rebuild ourselves, etc., that is outside of politics, because politics are becoming increasingly very toxic, very dangerous.
And very deadly as well.
Yes, exactly. So like there has to be some other way. But I feel like we are either losing faith in politicians or we have lost faith in them. Like we don't trust them to have our best interests, or to act in our best interests. You know, like we are seeing quite a very self-interested lot, and perhaps I must be very clear that I'm speaking of the current government, like which is the ANC government is exhibiting a lot of self-interest kind of behavior. And we see now, even with the infighting, like while the country is burning, people are busy with their ANC politics. Yeah. Almost like the country is running itself right now. It's very much being propped up by Tina with the working class, making sure that we go to our jobs every day and all of this and things don't fall apart.
And there's taxes that are paid.
Yes.
The machine is running.
Yes. And then you also have people like Gift of the Givers and all of this.
Rescue situations.
Rescue situations. We have an issue of our government being highly politicized to our detriment. At this point, and therefore us also not trusting them to have our best interests at heart.
Do we, and I promise this is my last political question, do we as South Africans also, and it goes back to all the points we've made so far, the apathy we have, do we as South Africans still hope that somebody else will solve this problem for us?
Someone said that it will be up to civil society, like we should be looking at these grassroots movements, in the different metros, municipalities that are doing grassroots work and stuff like that. Like they are the ones who actually have a passion for fixing their communities. Yeah. While the politicians bapaqulana, for positions and stuff like that, it may be up to us now, civil society. Someone was even commenting, but Abantu, they're fixing potholes. And I mean, that should not happen. Yes, like that should not happen, but this is where we are, because if we have to step in while they fixing whatever issues that they're fixing, and then come 2024, we vote wisely.
And they blame everybody else for losing elections.
Yes, it's really quite a scary time right now, particularly with like you feel the silencing. Like we don't even have to say anything to know that if you say this one, you will feel like the silence is, but don't say that. Don't say that. It's like we live in very
interesting time.
Yeah.
Where does the activism in you come from?
I don't have an activist background. My family were very far removed from politics, completely. And it's not that I was groomed to be like this. It's more perhaps that I grew up seeing a lot of injustice and also it affecting me directly. That, it cultivated a lot of empathy in me for people who are experiencing injustice, and having been given a position in society, I wanted to use that position, positively to effect change, which is what I've been trying to do both with my music and outside of my music, with my activism.
Do you find that it's a responsibility of those that have the position in society, like one you describe, to do that, or it's okay if they don't?
Listen, it's no one's responsibility to do any of that. If you feel compelled to do it, great.
Follow your...
Yes, but don't judge others for not.
Yeah.
Because you also know the pitfalls. Being an activist is no walk in the park.
It's and you tend to lose out on stuff
a lot. Yes, you are better off just not involving yourself, commenting on things that are not contentious.
On Rihanna's dress.
Yes, exactly. Like we are better off just doing that. Once you start talking about racism, like Helen Zille, who tell me, hey, the way I was attacked over Helen Zille, and now everyone agrees with me. Like almost a decade later.
Wow. With all the mess that we're experiencing as sabotage towards each other, going back to the politics of ANC and so forth, and non-delivery of basic things, are we then, as a result, letting the white man get a free pass? And I say this because, hey, their life is carrying on the other side. Fine, we experience the same pothole. But your pothole, if you're driving a Skorokoro, is different from a pothole with a better car, for example. And I'm saying this, that life carries on this.
And you'll have better premiums when you drive a nice car.
Thank you. And many more. when you have COVID, your chances are better than someone who, because I don't have medical aid, and there's some fancy medical aid on the other side, and so forth and so forth. Are we, as a result?
No, but who is giving them a free pass? It's not us. It's the same government. It's not us. Don't blame us for that.
That's
either.
why I'm asking.
No, it's not us. Like we also question them. Like what happened after TRC? All of these things. Why were people blocked from suing? All of this. We ask these questions, but we are not the ones who are giving anyone a free pass. Tina, we voted for a government that said they will do A, B, C, and D.
They'll fix the free pass.
Yeah, exactly.
With affirmative action.
Yes, and all of those things. So we cannot blame us.
Maybe when I say us.
Or are you saying that we are not holding the government accountable enough?
You see how far the us goes.
But the thing is this, then you have to ask yourself, how many protests do we have in South Africa for you to say that we are not doing enough?
And how many more do we need?
Exactly. I mean, if the free education protest,
the fees must fall.
Fees must fall. Like they went on for so long, and where are we?
Yeah.
Like you protest until ukatale.
Yes.
Getting change to happen is a very slow process. Rather,
it's a tricky one where we
because we protest in this country.
No, like
we
crazy,
protest
like crazy.
So what more must we do? Must we take up arms? What are we supposed to do?
Ban parliament.
No, but that's treasonous behavior.
You realize where we are.
Yes, that's treasonous behavior.
The reason I make that reference to that is that indeed we have a banned parliament because whatever the reason may be for it burning, maybe it was just a faulty wire. Who knows? Be that
I know, but there has been many others burning. Like we have to say something is going on. We don't know who, but something is going on.
Interesting. Julius Malema two weeks ago said, no, nothing is happening. These are just incidents that I have coincidences. But it makes you stop for a second and wonder. You can't help yourself.
No. I think there's a lot of silence around it because people are scared to put it into words and then ask the harder questions. Do we have a guerrilla war in our hands? Like, what is happening?
Because a guerrilla war is historic in how we got freedom.
It's our modus operandi.
You can trace it to a particular political party that said we will take up arms and we will destroy key areas of government. So we bring government to destabilize and bring it to its knees. So you almost want to stop and say, but this story we've read before, is it playing out again?
I think we're scared to internalize what's going on in the country and see it by yay, tengathi nje. There's a Cold War, the guerrilla war, do
you think we are in trouble right now? Would you describe it and say, oh, Gooby?
I don't know, hey?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not looking good. But then again, I don't know if we should be freaking out or just thinking to ourselves, it's a minor annoyance that will be sweated away.
Yeah.
You know, that our institutions are very strong, etc., etc. The thing is, we don't know how our institutions are being run, if they're being run effectively.
As well.
That's the thing, you know. So when you hear stories like they have not been maintained for this long, these things have not been checked for this long.
Well, Parliament.
But like there was no insurance.
No.
Like,
well, I can understand that. It's a long, unnecessary explanation. You can't insure government because they have the most money.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You see what I mean? Because insurance works with, I have 100 million rands and you have a car for 20,000 rands. Mm-hmm. You are able to get insurance from me because of that, because I can protect the entire insurance the system.
I get it.
But government has too much budget for an insurance company to insure it. Mm-hmm. So essentially, however, the government needs to insure itself creatively by saying, we're going to put money away in the PIC, for example.
In case of...
Exactly. That's how a government can insure itself.
Okay,
so technically, there is no insurance, you're right. And it should be there. I want to just change the subject.
Yeah, please.
And talk to you about your music and your life. Where were you born?
I was born in Butterworth, in the Eastern Cape, former Transkei.
Yes. So you were born during the Transkei?
Yes, during the Transkei era.
Were you born when Holomisa was the man?
Yes, Holomisa was the main man then.
He sat on that chair and told me the whole story.
Yes, yeah, he was the main man then.
So you were born in the transition, or you came out and there he was?
There was Opat Kozo that side, there was Holomisa this side.
They were military men though.
Yes.
They were
I think
fighters.
I even remember the time when Kozo, when he was taken down. What year was it?
I forgot it. It's in the 80s.
Yes, like there was an invasion. Yes. Oh, yay. Late 80s.
Late 80s. It was in the 80s. I remember that moment as well. Yes. I remember we used to see him so much on TV wearing that military gear.
Yes.
Wow.
He's the one who invaded Kozo, ne?
I think so.
Yes, it's him. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
What a time. And it goes back to the question you've already answered about your activism. Were you conscious during those early days of things that were happening, or you were just born into an independent country?
You know, I was completely, unaware of what, we literally lived in a bubble because Eslalini is so far removed from, politics and stuff. We literally live in a bubble.
Yeah.
When I moved to Tsolo, now my world is a little bit more, slightly bigger. I remember even the first voting, what was,
yes.
Everyone moving into Kutsolo, setting up for, but I was not aware of the politics of the country. I learned a bit of it because I was a bookworm when I was growing up. Like a complete, I'm not a bookworm anymore, but I used to be a hectic one. So I learned about Steve Biko. I must have been 12, etc. Like what was going on like in the country. But still, I was very far removed from it. Like we used to see Abantu Abasuka, from his mine. People always came back from the big cities very subdued.
Really?
It was always strange for me, like like the older ones when they come home now, they were not the same as when they left. Like Ngatu Umoya Wabo has been their wings have been clipped, like their self-esteem is slightly they left. Like they've been humbled, like Bubomi or something like that. But I was not aware, what was happening in the real world. I think I would only realize it when I went to college. Yes. Now there I was mixing with other races and stuff. And I mean, even in high school, like we were majority black kids in class, like 98%. So like there was no like really like racial
even racial conversation.
Yes, even those.
Yeah.
So it would be when I was in PE studying towards my IT that I would, firsthand experience things like racism, and I would be so completely like, whoa, what the hell was that? Like, I never thought I was small like this. Now I'm being made to feel like I'm nothing. I was even scared to raise my hand in class.
Wow.
Because I could feel that thing, but I know black people useless.
No, nothing.
Yeah, well.
you know. You and I get so deep in these societal challenges.
Yeah.
And all I wanted to know was your music. Anyway, let's go back to your history now with growing up. Was there music around you at all?
Umculo ndungancebeleni. But not mainstream music like on radio and things like radio. I didn't grow up with radio and TV.
Came in later.
Came in much later. Yes, when I stayed with my grandparents. My grandfather had a wireless, but it was his.
Really?
It was his. So when you turned it on, then we'd all go and listen.
Gather around.
Yes, but it was his only because he was trying to preserve it. Yes, I'll be the whole day. Yes. So I wouldn't say that I experienced radio growing up. Like he would do it for the 7:00 news and then those radio soapies, then morning news maybe. But yeah, I say that umculo ndungancebeleni because everything where I grew up as Lalini had a soundtrack to it.
Wow.
Umsebenzi kasebenzayo siyacula. When you're working, like everything, imicimbi,
yes,
like it's accompanied by music. Basically, music was or is the soundtrack of our lives, and I got introduced to then mainstream when I started staying with my mom, Kutsolo, and then we had a TV.
And you get to see
with
pictures.
Electricity now, yeah.
You get to see stuff now.
Yes, and also like just listen to music. I mean, I grew up with music that we sing ourselves.
Yes.
Our voices were our instruments. We say to our hands, and then I got introduced to instruments.
But do you remember the first time music made sense to you as I think there's something here. I can tell you about me and radio. I remember the day when radio started making sense. I was in Standard 9 then, and I was accidentally emceed a beauty pageant. And I had a microphone and I spoke. And the people reacted. Said, "Oh, I like this. I want to do more of this." And then it became an obsession from that moment onwards. And then Metro became a thing, and then it was all exciting around me around that time. So, do you remember a time when music there was a boom and it sparked something else?
Okay, so I was in the church choir. At 12, I would sometimes lead the church choir.
Yeah, because you were a priest in the family, right?
No, but by then my father was no longer even
a priest.
My father was a priest. By the time I was born, he'd already been excommunicated from the church.
so the story they've written about you is wrong then.
Yes. It is
They're
very, very wrong.
Yes.
And I've tried to dispel this, but my father was a priest with his own congregation, etc., etc. But by the time that I was born, he had been excommunicated from that church. So I was in the church choir. It was my mom actually that was a heavy, like my mom's influence on me musically and spiritually is very, very big.
Amazing.
My mom was a staunch Christian. My mom was the one who sang. My gifts come from her.
Wow.
So I would sing in the school choirs. I sang in all the choirs, the duet, the quartet, like all of it.
You did, yeah.
But I must say that I enjoyed more the church choirs because of the spirit element.
You feel...
Yes, you feel connected to something. So I was very passionate about music, but I didn't believe in myself.
Ooh, really?
Yes. No, I thought that I'm just passionate. Like I'm a passionate singer. Maybe I'm going to be a praise and worship. I'm going to be a church singer and sing for this purpose because this purpose is enough for me. Like I sing so that I can be connected to God.
True, yeah.
So when that moment that you're talking about came for me, I was in matric and we're just fooling around with it was our valedictory ceremony. We're just fooling around and we sang a song, my friend Uvuyo and I. It's so hard to say goodbye.
It's so hard to say goodbye
Yes.
to yesterday.
Yes.
Okay.
We had a very progressive principal and deputy principal, and they were a couple, a black couple that had been in exile, and they came back and they ran the school that I was in. And so progressive that the principal was a woman and the deputy was the guy.
That's very progressive.
Yes. So now, after we had sang that song, the guy comes to me and just casually, nonchalantly says to me, you can do this for a living. Like no one has ever said that to me.
Yeah.
Like it had been my secret thing, but I would love to do music. I really love this thing, but it's not practical.
Incredible.
I'm the firstborn at home. My mom is a nurse. I've got 3 other siblings. She takes from nothing. I have to make sure that my life is sorted out so I can also help my family. So music is not practical.
Not an option.
So and at the time, I was still struggling to find out what I'm going to do after matric because literally my heart was set on music.
So it was.
No, my heart was set on music, but I didn't think that it was practical.
How do people make a living from this
Yes,
thing?
especially Usemtata, so far away from Joburg, like the big city. What are you going to do with music in Mthatha?
Yes.
But him saying that and me knowing that he's very well traveled, well this, and I was like, oh, okay, if he believes in me, then perhaps I should really take a chance on myself and believe in myself as well. So Nje, just that one small sentence, it literally changed my life. And though I went on to do IT for practical reasons, it was just part of my planning towards having a music career.
So IT was merely
Stepping stone.
nothing more.
Yes.
And to take the in case.
Yes. No, I wanted to make sure that I can take care of myself while I follow my dreams. Like I said, I'm the firstborn at home.
Of course.
I don't have a fallback.
No, there's no.
Yes.
It has to work.
It
Whatever
has to
you
work.
do.
And I have myself and only myself.
Yes.
Yes.
What happens with a child that now has this sentence that's ringing in their head that maybe I should do music? You go there sharp, you go do your IT, but maybe I should do music. Does it preoccupy you or you ignore it for a little bit?
No. I'm planning towards it. I needed that affirmation and I got it. And now I'm a practical person, right? So I'm planning towards it. But I know that I'm going to have to make sure that I get a job that's going to quickly pay me so I can, not depend on my mom very, very quickly. Right? And I think to myself, okay, you're not bad when it comes to your intellect, wit. You can do whatever you set your mind to doing. And then I look around, okay, what is going to make me the quickest buck?
Okay.
Because I'm not passionate. I'm passionate about music, but music is not practical for me to jump into it.
Yes.
Right after matric.
What year is this? This is 1990. It's in the 90s, late 90s.
So I'm like, okay, so what can make me a quick buck? Because, I just need something that's going to make me money quickly.
Yeah.
I'm not passionate about any of these. I'm passionate about music.
Yeah.
So it's just before Y2K.
Of course.
Like IT is a buzz.
2000.
Yes.
Yes.
IT is a buzz. Everyone is freaking out about Y2K. And girl, you must remember, I've never really worked on a computer. Like we had that encyclopedia in high school. Like that CD thing. Like,
the floppy disk.
Yes. Like the CD. Now I thought it's for your cup of tea. I was one of those. When I chose IT to study, I knew zilch about IT. Ne?
What inspired it? Or the
quick buck. Yes.
Quick buck.
Yes. I'm like, no, I'll learn.
And you've heard that
everyone wants IT people. Like I'm going to swallow and I didn't.
Yes.
Like, the first year was hell, eh? And you're starting there with...
You had to learn...
You're starting there with white kids who've had computers all of their lives. You don't even know when by Indoni floppy disk.
You think it's a tray for...
Exactly, so... But I'm a quick learner, and I adapt very quickly to environments. So that year... I passed I passed Ngonglip.
Just almost.
Yes, but by second year, got 2 distinctions. I was, I learned.
Yes.
So I did study IT, and I worked in IT for almost 3 years while I was
following
my plan of being a musician.
Wow.
You know, so I made sure that all my bases were covered.
Of course.
Yeah.
Let me go back to high school. But your story reads of a private school. Is that the very school where you got this, you can do this professionally?
I did only 2 years of private school.
The very last 2 years.
3 years, high school, standard 8, 9 and 10.
Yes. And the big decision by your mom, clearly, to say, let's do this, that was quite an important decision in your life.
The thing about being a parentified kid is that your parent has to trust you because they've trusted you with everything else. Like you are also their parent. You've been parenting everyone. So they know that you are responsible. They don't have any qualms, you know. So even with her, and now by second year of IT, I had gotten a bursary from Telkom.
Whoa.
Fully paying.
So
got me a place to stay.
Yeah, okay.
Got me a computer.
Jeez.
Paid for my stationery, whatever I needed. And also gave me a job.
What?
I could go and work there, you know, anytime I had time during working hours, even on weekends. In fact, if I worked on weekends, it was a bit extra.
Yeah, it was overtime.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I work an hour, I get paid per hour. Anytime I wanted to make some extra cash, I just go there and work for a few hours filing. That's all I was doing.
How did you get that?
I applied for it.
Just like that?
I applied for a bursary at Telkom my second year and I got it. And for the first time in my young life,
yes,
I was financially stable.
You had an income.
For the first time. Now there I am getting an epitome. Move to Joburg.
Yeah.
And finish your studies there, your third year. I've had 1 year of having no financial issues whatsoever, like living like all the other privileged kids I was going to school with. Now I'm being told, you need to move to Joburg this year. I'm being told this in December, but next year. And I'm a person who listens to my guides. I would be nothing without them.
Who is saying go to Joburg?
My guides, my spiritual guide. They're saying it's time to jump, go to Joburg. I'm like, okay. I try to call Telkom, please transfer my bursary to Joburg.
Yes.
They're like, no, sorry, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
If you move to Joburg, you forfeit your bursary and it turns into a loan that you have to pay back.
Even what we've given?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
But no, sorry, that's just how we work. You know, we got you in this area because we want you to finish here and work here.
And help this area.
Yeah, and work here. Yeah. And I'm like, you imagine PE, I'm not staying in PE. So because I was being told that I have to go to Joburg, tell my mother, Mama, I'm being told this, so I'm doing this. Like, I'm not asking her. I'm telling her. I'm a parentified kid.
Yes.
Like,
you have to help her think things through too.
You know? Because I'm just like, if she can't help me, I'll find a way. I'm being told. So something is going to, you know, work itself out. You know, also, and I'm still young, then I don't have responsibilities.
No.
I can just put my backpack on my thing and travel the world if I want. I don't have kids. I don't have a house. I don't have any of this, which helps a lot when you make impulsive decisions
That's
like
true.
that. So Mama Ati, okay, Ntanam, you know, we'll find a plan. You know, I've always believed in you. Like, you've got your head set on straight. I'm like, damn right. So we struggle that year, but everything works out miraculously well.
Wow.
I forfeit the bursary.
Jeez.
My cousin disappoints me with Indabaye accommodation when I'm already on the road.
Wow.
I'm traveling. My cousin is not answering his calls after he promised me that. Now I'm calling friends. I literally had to stay with her friend's brother for about 2 weeks.
Living off a bag, you know,
Yes.
when everything is in one bag. Oh no.
For about 2 weeks. And then I meet this girl, Khape. Second week, actually. And then she has this way of making you made me tell her my whole life story. But no, Antoni. Why don't you come and stay with me? You know, like, when you can pay rent, we can. If you can't, it's fine. I'm like, who does that in Joburg?
Who is this?
Like this friend of mine that I ended up staying with for 3 years. When I couldn't pay rent, it was okay. When I could, it was fine.
And she just let you?
Yes. Now my parents are okay. They pay for the place. So if you give me that money, it's going to be for my drinks.
Anyway. What?
You know, so that works out. I get introduced into the underground music scene. That works out. I write the album, and as soon as the album is done, someone approaches me. They want to shop my album around to Roshni Munsami. She approaches Gallo. Gallo signs me on a very exclusive premier deal.
Yeah.
And I'm here. And this all started because I listened to my guides also.
That's it, yeah.
And forfeited what I needed to forfeit at the time.
But you've completed the IT story. The
No.
job is there.
I came to Gallo and I finished my
IT,
studies.
yes.
Yeah.
Because your story
At vets.
speaks of vets. That's the thing.
Yes.
Your story speaks of vets.
So I came and did my third year at vets.
Yes.
And halfway through that year, I got a job. I started working while I was finishing studying. And I worked there until my maternity leave, and I never came back to work after maternity leave.
Can I borrow your guides?
No. Listen to yours.
I need yours.
We all have guides.
I need yours. Yours are working well. They are on point. Are they still functional?
Yes, they are back being functional now. We've gone through our ups and downs.
As we always do,
Yes,
don't we? Yeah?
Yes.
Now you're in Joburg.
Mm-hmm.
Which album is this? The very
This
big.
is Andisile, yes.
But the production of that album surely couldn't have been easy.
Tapelo Khomo.
Yes, that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
How did you end up with Tapelo in the same studio?
We tried different producers, and he was the one who got my rhythm. Because I've got a very weird rhythm.
Why do you call it weird? Now help us with understanding.
Not necessarily weird. Okay, weird
Different.
in that is different.
Yes.
I don't know if it's unique, but a lot of musicians struggle to get into my rhythms.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And he picked up on it.
Yes. They even struggle with the key. With my harmonies, like you never know which one is the main harmony. So I remember I was working with this producer and he literally produced a whole song on the wrong key because he was listening to the alto thinking that is the main.
Because yes, obviously there's layers to your
Yes.
key and he picked one.
Yes, but just how my harmonies, my melodies, my rhythms.
And
they can be challenging.
But this was an uneducated musician. I'm referring to you. Completely uneducated musician.
Mm-hmm.
IT. Music is...
Yeah.
This is just... Really. This is just natural talent. You walk into a studio, and you start singing. And they say, okay, we can do that. Give me the process. And more than process is... this IT kid who's not paying rent.
But I do pay from time to time.
You do from time to time.
From time to time.
This IT kid who pays rent from time to time. How do you meet these great musicians? Tapelo Khomo is arguably one of my favorite artists of all time. That's why I've had him here on that very chair a long time ago.
Yes.
Because, when you're planning something like this chats that I'm doing, you tick off people you've always wanted to speak to almost immediately. Mm-hmm. And he was literally in that list. And I have such great respect for his touch. And I sit and say, how the hell does this young girl from Eastern Cape who pays rent from time to time ends up with Tapelo Khomo in the studio?
You see that premier deal that I signed.
Yeah.
Right? That premier deal came about because of two people. One was Roshni Munsami, who had seen me perform my a cappellas with a poet when I was about 7-8 months pregnant with Zazie. Came to me after the show and was like, I want to book you for my event next year, the Urban Voices Festival. And I need you to be signed by then so you can have a band and all of this. So can you give me a demo? I'll shop it around for you.
Whoa.
I give that to Roshni. I don't hear anything for 5 months. Next thing I get a call from Sipos Tole. He says to me, yes, I've listened to your demo. I've heard about you from Roshni, but what you don't know is that I first heard about you from Tandiswa. And then it confirmed what I'd heard when I got this demo from Roshni, and I would like to sign you as one of the top 3 priority premier artists at Gallo, which means a proper budget, a proper this, a proper this.
Studio time, everything.
Yes, good producers and all of that. That's one thing that I really appreciated and I miss about Gallo. Gallo understood music.
It did, eh?
Them going under was a huge loss, and I mean, I used to have fights with Gallo. Hey?
As you would, as an artist.
Yes, but, knowing that I used to try and have constructive fights with them because I didn't want to lose them. I understood them understanding the value of my work.
You were not fighting, breaking windows.
No. I was constructively fighting with Gallo. And that's why the only reason why I left Gallo was because they went under. Like they released
all the
lot
catalogs.
of us. Yes.
I asked this about Thapelo and all of that. What music were you singing in this demo? What music were you performing before you were seen and said, there's something there?
Like this. It was very much a cappella. Yes. It was a whole song. Now, Thapelo had to then come in. Afake, I my instrumentation yayo, ikizazo, beat yakhona, rhythm, and all of those things. And it would take special people to understand.
To hear that.
And that was him, Beki Khoza, and Morera Chongira, who really got it. And then with the current album, then Salif Keita's People.
Yes. Wow. Do you consider yourself talented? When you're sitting and you look at yourself in the mirror, it's like,
yes, totally. And I'm not even bragging. I'm just, I sometimes look at my songs. I'll tell you, every time I have to start a new album, I always feel overwhelmed by my past works. But how the hell did I do that? No way. I always get that thing. I always I lose my self-esteem a lot when I start a new project because I'm like, I can never top that. How did I do that? How did I do that? And that's why I also want to acknowledge that I have been given gifts that may be beyond my comprehension. By God and Israelism.
Yeah.
And so it's not just me who does this thing. Sometimes I tap into, it's like when I perform as well, I tap into a different space that is not necessarily that I'm completely aware of myself when I'm on that stage.
Yeah.
That's why you're even mentioning, but you're very different from stage.
No.
Voice, like in this and that and that.
I've been very lucky to have been in the audience of your performances a few times. I've been very lucky to have seen you perform. There was one not very far from here. There's some theater not very far from here. It was a relatively small crowd. And I think Afro Traction was also performing there as well. And I was in the audience and I said, my God, what in the world is this? This needs to be exported to the rest of the world and maybe other planets. Because what you do, and I like that you even innocently says, it's not really you. There's something else beyond you when you do that stuff. Because it does look like that. It looks like an out-of-body experience. Even for us that are watching, it's like, she's somewhere else. She's not here. We are seeing an energy that is transcended and that we are experiencing. And I'm glad you confirming that, because that's always been my experience of watching you perform.
I'll tell you, it has taken a lot of humility for me to actually acknowledge that Andy Ambindedwa. It's not just me. Like this, genius.
You used to think it's only you.
There was a time where I was like, I shame to Suyapala.
Yeah.
But over time, I've gotten, or I've learned like the humility to understand, but no, I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I get, I get exposed to spaces that other artists don't necessarily get exposed to, where I grab these gems of healing that I bring to the rest of us, including myself. For instance, like, Zandisile, that song, I didn't write that song. It was just given to me. I dreamt the song. And I woke up and I wrote all of it.
What?
Like all the lyrics, I woke up remembering all the lyrics, the melody, and I wrote all the lyrics and I recorded the melody and I recorded. I got that song at night. I woke up in the morning, I wrote the song and I recorded the vocals, and that was it. Yeah, everything. I've never been given a song like that before.
Complete.
It's the first
one.
A complete song. Here and there I'll get yacengwa ke into like izinto zabantu abadala yacengwa, so I'll tell it super up banike nale, so it has taken me a while to actually be cognizant of the fact and be humble to the fact that
you're not the only one.
There's something that is way beyond me that happens kandi palayo and kandi culayo.
Why is it, and I'm asking a really weird question even in my head, how do you have it and others don't? I say this because I imagine external, and I use external very carefully because, when you're experiencing this, it's not external. This is you bringing through a message. You're merely a conduit. You're a connection between that world and what we consider as the real world. Mm-hmm. And you're bringing this message through a funnel of some sort. I sit and wonder, surely we all have access, don't we? It's not exclusive, this thing.
Yes, it's not exclusive at all.
Be.
And that's why you actually see there's this huge Twasa all over the place.
Everywhere.
Yes, and it's good. I call it like a spiritual revolution. Maybe that's the next stage, of us loving ourselves and understanding ourselves. Is the next stage of the revolution.
So it's not exclusive.
No, it's not exclusive.
But how is it that others are aware of it?
The thing is this, we all have different gifts.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's also the part where not everyone follows their passions. And then we get caught up in the rat race, the 9-to-5 rat race of thinking that life is all about paying bills and buying a house and a car. There's no higher purpose than that. We all have a higher purpose. And it's a matter of finding that higher purpose and nurturing it.
Yeah.
Now, my purpose was nurtured from when I was young in the school choirs in the church. My purpose was nurtured. And then I also took it upon myself to follow my passions and not be scared and fearful. Right? A lot of people don't follow their passions. Like myself, when I was in matric, and I was going to go and study something and not follow my passion because I didn't think that it's something that's doable or important. Like, who cares about me following my passion? You know? Not knowing that it actually had the potential to change the world and then heal a lot of people. So a lot of people don't follow their passion. So it's not a matter of them not having it. It's just it's a matter of them being blind
to it,
deaf to it,
and being blind and deaf to it. We describe it as the rat race. We describe it, but ultimately the real story of the life that you experience beyond or the rat race, the real world of the rat race is has a far more reaching implication than that. It's not just the rat race. The rat race is merely a symptom of the choices you've made, but it must surely affect you psychologically, mentally. You forever be, I say this to my niece a lot. I say you can never ignore your shadow. It'll always be there. And particularly when there's light, your shadow will show itself even more to say, do you see me? And that for me becomes a reality of the life that we live, of the rat race. So really what I'm trying to get from you is, had you not followed this, surely you would be miserable. The assumption is you're not right now.
Well, I definitely would be miserable because when I worked for the IT company, I could tolerate it because I worked from home. So I could still keep my own hours as long as I met my deadline. So you've done working
from home long before.
Yeah, no, I know. I did it for almost 3 years. And one of the reasons why I didn't go back to work is because now they became clever and had offices. And I was like, nope, Not for me. No, like now they were doing well. They could afford offices. And I was like, no, that's not why I joined you guys. I joined you because could be afforded this as long as I met my deadlines, which I always did.
Yeah.
I knew that the 9 to 5 was not for me. And there are people that it's for. It's part of their passion.
True.
It's part of their calling. Right. But I knew that my calling is to be an observer. Note it down. To write songs about it.
And tell it.
And let the healing begin.
Have you been told of the healing powers of your music by complete strangers?
Quite a lot. I hold it very dear to myself that my music has helped people through a lot of traumatic situations. I get to hear that a lot. Depression of different for people with depression for different reasons. People that have got, chronic depression, people that are depressed because they've lost something, they're going through like a tough time. But I've heard quite a few stories of how my music helps people get through.
Do you get surprised, or was there ever a time when you got surprised by the reaction? As a musician, you make a song, it's out in the world, you're hoping it does well. The doing well is the commercial doing well, as in the money. Do you ever get surprised when you found a completely unexpected reaction?
All the time.
Even now?
Yes.
No way.
All the time. And some of the stories really bring tears to my eyes.
What?
I remember this one told me that, my mom introduced me to your music when I was 14. I'm like, gosh, how old am I? How old are you? And then much later I was going through this, and then my mom passed on much later, and your music helped me, that song Inequality, it has helped me get through so much, like my Ine. I hear these stories all of the time. And to be quite honest, even when I go through times when I want to give up, because it's really hard being an artist in South Africa.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. So I remember these, and then I remember why I do this.
Do you know, there's a song of yours I use for myself. And the beauty about doing radio is people don't know what you're really going through. Because 99% of the time, it's an act. I'm on Generations, called a radio show. I play a character. That character is King David. I press the microphone and I perform like you do. There's a song of yours, and you made reference to it now, Maine. I played that song, and it's long. I like it for that.
Yes.
It's a long song. It's nice. You literally, it's like having a good meal, and that's big. You enjoy it through thoroughly. I use that song to reassure me that the world can be a better place, or my world can be a better place. And I use that song to call on my people and say, help me with fortune, help me with a better feeling that I'm having right now, help me with a better day than the one I'm having right now. And note, my Xhosa is as great as my Japanese. It's terrible. So it's my own interpretation of it, and I hope it's right. When I say, let there be rain in your life, let there be blessings in your life, let there be all the things you dream of in your life, let them happen. And I wish them for you. And this is what I would say on the radio. I wish them for you, but I know I'm saying that to myself every time I play it. Tell me I'm right in my interpretation, please.
No, totally. You are very right. I was praying for blessings.
Yeah.
And I wrote the song for Busimhlongo.
Okay.
At the time when she was quite sick and with very little support, like financial and otherwise. And I was praying for rain in her life.
Yeah.
And I'm of the belief that once a song is out of your hands, it no longer belongs to you. And now it lives and is owned by all the people that get to hear it and apply it to their own lives. So I never try to change people's interpretation of my song because that's what it means to them in their own lives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where does that one come from in terms of, in your mind, in your writing? Was it a long, deep search for words? Or was it I hear it, here it is.
How did Maine come about? I remember I was staying in Cape Town when I wrote that song. I used to travel a lot, touring. And this was a time when Mambusi was pretty sick. So I used to call her a lot. We'd have like hour-long conversations when I was in transit, whatever, And this woman was very sick at the time. And you would call her, and the minute she hears it's you, she would just shower you with so much love. I wish blessings upon your life. You are so great. You are so amazing. I love you so much. Like she would literally move your focus away from the horrible time that she's going through.
Yeah.
And use that call to affirm you. And when you were calling because you're worried about her, like you want to tell her that everything's going to be fine, this and this and that. But she literally would end up making it about you and your well-being. Because she's a healer. It would make me so sad, but this woman who should be complaining about how no one is taking care of, but she's just there. And I would hear her at Guma's in Tlungu, and I'd be like, shame, man. But her focus would be on loving me.
And it should be, in your very innocent perception, it should be the other way around.
She would not even allow you to, So I felt it was the only way, she would get to hear me bandit.
Wow.
And
finally, you got a chance to tell her in a song.
Yes.
She heard it, I imagine.
Yes.
And did you tell her this is yours? What was her reaction?
I don't remember. Did I even tell her?
Yeah.
I did tell her. I don't remember what she said. Like I was saying, she always moved focus away from her to you.
That's a gift on its own.
Yes, she was a healer.
Yeah.
She was a healer.
Do you still miss her presence in your life? Maybe even musically?
I think perhaps as a spiritual person, I know that I have access to her. I can speak with her. I can, she's a good ancestor.
Yes.
I have that comfort. And the fact that I know how much she suffered. I wish she hadn't suffered and she had lived.
Yes.
But knowing that she did, she suffered a lot. I believed like she's in a better place. So I wouldn't want her to be here and suffering like she was.
No. Every time I play her music, I still use her English name.
Vicky.
Vicky. Every time I play her music. Because at some point she was Vicky.
She was Vicky full time.
Yes. Nothing else.
Yes.
At some point, people didn't even know the Wusimhlomo character, a person. It was just Vicky, the musician.
Yes.
From South Africa.
No sangoma piece, nothing. Vicky with a wig.
She was a punk. She was a punk from South Africa.
Yes.
And she became this amazing icon of what you've just described, this sangoma-like musician, you know. It's such an amazing thing, that transition.
I wonder if it happened around Twasako. Did she twasa Mambusi?
I wonder even. I don't even know.
I wonder myself.
Yes.
That the change happened around Twasa Gwak.
Yes.
If she did twasa.
Your music, you speak of, and you alluded to this, that the challenges of a musician. Let's go back to the first album. Did it do anything as close to what the record label signed you up for? If you know a little bit about soccer, you know that we're signing up a brand new player called Simphiwe Dana. We hope she'll bring us money and fortune. Was it anything like that?
Yes. It exceeded my expectations.
Whoa.
First of all, being given a premier deal and you're nobody. I was literally nobody in the industry.
Were you aware of the size of this deal you got from comparatively speaking?
No, only in hindsight.
What?
Only in hindsight. So I honestly, I didn't expect the response I got with my first album.
Yeah.
Because firstly, if you remember, my music would have been very odd at the time. very foreign.
Very different.
You know, in a space where quota and house music were dominating the scene.
Dude.
I remember I used to live across from Mosquito. And I used to beg him, please, Mosquito, sign me. Sign me, Mosquito.
That's before Gallo, obviously.
Before,
Yes.
yeah. Before. And Mosquito said, Mother Sweet, I want no jive, Amos.
Your music is not
and
my
it's
time.
true. He's like, no, Mother Sweet, you must find yourself. And it was very true, you know. And then I brought out this sound. I didn't know. I didn't expect people to, like, you know, love it the way that they did. It was such a huge, pleasant surprise.
Pleasant surprise. Was it a relief equally?
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, following my guides had paid off.
Imagine that.
You know, had paid off. I'd never had to be anyone's backup singer or anyone's opening act. Like, I didn't have to do any of these things. I went from being a nobody to being Simphiwe Dana.
Overnight.
Like a
when you
miracle.
Look at time,
yes, a miracle.
That's incredible.
A true miracle.
Yes. But how long is that overnight? As in, I'm in studio, I'm singing these odd songs.
I didn't have to go around looking for a record label.
Yes.
First of all, I just wrote songs and I got a call. I didn't have to shop around my album. I got a call. We want to sign you for a premiere deal. From being a nobody.
Which other artists were getting those type of...
It was myself, it was Thandiswa, it was Nana. It was the three of us.
Thandiswa with the Zabalaza album.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was myself, it was Thandiswa, and it was Nana. Huh. You know, we supposedly got the same deal and the same budget.
That's when I imagine Gallo was saying, we need to do this.
Yes. No, yeah. Gallo was coming in, you know, guns blazing, hey, at that time.
Do you know, interesting, I did a presentation yesterday for Telkom sponsorship department, and I had to do research on the state of the South African music currently.
Mm-hmm.
It looks glossy. It looks beautiful. The reality is very different. There's way less money now going around than it did 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean less, from 100 million to 8 million, as an example. And you obviously, as a musician, you see this much closer than I do. I had to do research over a weekend and put together a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
For you, this is a lived experience of the changes that has happened. What has happened?
Technology.
Yeah. Uber. The taxis are saying Uber happened.
Yes. Kona landa batu si streaming, ne? Yay, streaming sisbulele, damn it. You will have millions of streams. But it translates to how much? Like a stream, like one stream is 0.0001 cent. You know?
Cent.
Yes. So these technology companies, they found a way to exploit artists because now we've got all of like big numbers of people, you know, who are watching our stuff, but, you know.
Very little money.
Yes. We're making more money that way through selling CDs.
Of course, a physical CD had proper money coming in.
So there's that. There's technology, the streaming, one. And then before streaming, it was people just pirating.
Of course,
music, which they still do. They still do that, but now also streaming is taking more money from us. Ooh. And like we, you know, but they keep saying that no, we actually helping you make money. I'm like, how? When one stream is 0.001000000.1.
I was better off selling a CD at Musica.
Yes, you know. So there's that.
Yeah.
The other thing is that these record labels have also become white elephants. They don't know how to move swiftly with the times.
Yeah.
They are carrying a lot of dead wood, and perhaps they are not willing to be innovative in case they fail.
Yes, try it.
Yes, like they don't want to come up with ideas that are outside of the norm in case they fail. And all the ideas that, you know, these record labels have been employing, they are outdated. The world has become so small that marketing to radio, for instance, doesn't make sense anymore alone. Like there's a whole world out there, global, and you have the internet to reach that whole entire world.
I always look at it and say, as a musician, you're either going to make it big or not at all.
Yeah.
Because the technology, there's this guy, Loiso, with a double L. He's become a social media and a YouTube sensation with very little record sales. But this side is working so well to a point where international musicians saying, who in the world is this guy? I want to work with him. I want to do something with him. India reposted a video saying, I love this guy. And that's why I say technology is a double-edged sword, I guess, in that context.
You're wrong there because he's doing right. The issue is that whatever record label he has is not latching onto that and using that.
Which is a point you're making.
And maximizing on it, yes.
Which is a point you're making.
Yes, like they still want to do things the old way, that doesn't work.
They want to market it.
Antiquated, yes. Instead of jumping on this wave and finding ways to use that to market and push out an album, there's iTunes, Apple is there to partner and push all of this and, and use that online media. Like the record label is looking behind because they still want to call compiler as a metro. Please play
this song.
And that time you have the whole world.
That time you have 5 million people that are watching your video everywhere in the world. All the time. If you go and check your analytics, you'll find at any given moment, there's 100 people listening to your song.
But now, the thing is, it's not being followed up by any PR action from your record label. So it's all of that attention that you're getting and no one is maximizing on it.
Then it comes to this very simple question. Do you still need a record label then?
You actually do, hey? Otherwise, you have to have that team yourself.
Yeah.
Because you literally need a team of people.
And it's not easy.
It's not easy. If you want to be a household name, you do need a team of people.
Yeah.
To place you in all the right.
Yes, exactly.
Places that will push you forward. So as much as we have an issue with them, also to actually fund a proper project, put proper money behind it, proper marketing, all of these things take capital.
Of course.
That an independent may not have.
Yeah.
And then more than capital as well, it takes connections. And these record labels have been around for so long, they've got a network.
Of everywhere in the world.
Yes, everywhere in the world that, you could use. So the issue is that they need to stop being white elephants. They need to innovate, but they are still very necessary.
I hear that he's signed to a US record label, this Loiso, and naturally, I guess maybe we wait for it to blow up, this career of his. But this very thought of international record label as well brings to mind how small the world has become. How easy is it for a South African artist who started playing a piano and singing on a microphone in his bedroom to be signed by some international record label that saw his video on YouTube. I guess that's where we are as well, isn't it? As an industry as well.
Yeah, we should be there.
Yeah. But how is the South African music industry then? You said white elephant. The numbers saying it's on life support.
Because of COVID as well. It was doing terribly before COVID, and COVID has literally just decimated it.
Put it in, a foot on top of its neck and said, sorry, you're not going to rise up again. Then it brings me back to where we started, you and I, in this conversation. Government support. And this is a conversation we even had way before we started recording this. And we spoke about how, we don't, as a society, recognize and as government recognize the arts as part of the story of our existence. And we are from Africa, isn't it?
Okay, but we get that. When we say these things, people just hear us wanting handouts, which is very weird.
Yeah.
So outside of that, because it's true, artists are seen as entrepreneurs, They don't get benefits from anyone.
No medical aid.
None of that.
Yeah.
Now at least we've got Sampra that's introduced life cover.
Yes.
Funeral cover.
Funeral cover.
Yeah. If we lived in a patriotic country, like how Mali is, Nigeria is, our artists would not suffer as much because we've got such proper institutions, like structures in place. We can trace royalties, we can trace everything.
Yeah.
Unlike in other countries where there are not even those kinds of systems.
Exactly.
In African countries, we do have the systems. The issue is a lack of patriotism that has its radio stations fighting to play foreign music to our country, like frothing in the mouth to play Beyonce. And frothing in the mouth, like why, like they must play local music. When people fight so hard, they're like, no, why should we play local music? Someone even said, why should we play like your music, like we're giving you airtime? I'm like, oh my God. So like you'd rather give Beyonce airtime. Are you even listening to yourself?
Do you want to know the numbers? They're scary.
I can imagine them.
Let me tell you, it's sad. There's an article that was written, Nikki Moore or somebody did research on the monies around the country. In 1994-95, when the black government came into power, they said they identified different industries as great industries to develop black communities. Soccer, interesting, is one of them. Because it's a black created thing from nowhere, from nothing.
Yeah.
And it became a business. It created a very rich people and very rich families and so forth. And the taxi industry is one of them as well. They said, that's it. This one can work. It can develop. It can grow. Music was one of them. One of the dreams and aspirations with the music was we will do it, we will support it so well that we will export it to the rest of the world and indirectly or directly export culture as well. Americans became what they are because they exported their culture everywhere in the world. Europeans did the same. Look at the language we're using now to communicate this. The value of it was estimated at hundreds of millions of billions. And right now, South Africa in 2020, 2021, and hey, if I'm wrong, I'm open to be corrected, paid out over 150 million rands in South African rands to international artists. Music that we are playing here.
And how much to local artists?
108,000 rands. 1/10 of a million rands.
No way.
108,000 rands.
Not 1 million something.
No, not even 500,000.
In 2021.
2021. That's how bad it is. Essentially, either no one is following up with the music that's played in all over the world or doing a bad job of it, or our music is just not played anyway.
No, ICASA is not doing their job of monitoring. Or rather, perhaps these people have got a way of hiding. I heard the story that even ads are seen as local content.
I don't know that. I hope not. But if there's a song in an ad, it's a different story.
No. Now I heard, because if you remember, I'm part of the group that persuaded Saudi to 90%.
I was about to come to that.
And that's when I found out. But no, even ads, if they made in essay are counted as local content. So we actually play local content 60%, whatever.
We're playing adverts.
Like they have they have a way of hiding these things, and ICASA should know better. I just feel like there just isn't a very strong patriotic spirit. Like we are not so as interested as we express ourselves to be in actually being patriotic.
Could it be that patriotism, 1, 2, no unified structures within the musicians to say, and again, it goes back to a point, interesting how we keep making full cycle to what we spoke about. How many protests do you want to see? How many more?
No, listen, there's this white paper that's been going back and forth from government since 2007 or something. Things take forever. And
it takes, if you and I were to be honest, it takes a very quick, easy decision, isn't it? It's not complex.
It's lack of will. And the thing is this, you also have to ask yourself, what contracts are there between our country and these record labels that they play so much American music? Because it doesn't make sense. The insistence in playing this music, it doesn't make sense. When it's impoverishing, it does not make sense. Like, what contracts were signed that, this will happen, we'll make sure of it.
We will play Luther Vandross.
Yes.
5 times.
Like we love Eddie Zondi, but we have to say that he contributed towards this culture of not playing local music.
To the program.
Why was that allowed? And in fact encouraged.
Yeah.
To the detriment of local music. Why is it still being encouraged? Because if you even look at what happened when, the 90% was enforced.
Yeah.
The compilers sabotaged that project. They sabotaged it by actually not researching and finding, and updating their systems, because literally they were exposed for not having enough local music on their systems.
I was there.
And instead of them then saying, oh, flip, we have to update our systems, they made it seem like, no, it's because there's no local music. What the hell?
I was
They made
there.
it seem, and then they end up paying Dalom kids and stuff, music, because they have not updated our music for so long in their systems.
Interesting. I was.
So for me, it was an act of sabotage on their part.
Why do we do that? Why is it that itaki ifuna itaki aqhubeka?
I don't know.
Because that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
I as you said that we are playing your music. We're already playing one song. So what more do you want? We need to play Beyonce.
This guy, when this guy asked me, why should we play your music and give you airtime? I'm like, you are talking about why you must play Beyonce, and in the same breath, why should you give me airtime as a local artist?
Wow.
What the hell? The reasoning is so warped.
It doesn't make sense.
It does not make sense. And then we get treated like, what we do is a hobby. Just go get a job. What?
Let me play devil's advocate. 1 second. Allow me. Because I've been very lucky in my life to have played both sides of this. Playing the music and also buying advertising space on radio stations. That's what my business does as well. We buy space. And when we look for space to buy on a radio station, we're looking for an audience. We have a product we're selling, and we want our clients to be where that audience is. And what do you say to a debate that throws this entire thing back and says, but when we play a lot of local music, we lose our audiences. Our audience numbers drop. And when we lose audiences, we lose revenue because advertisers don't advertise with us anymore. What do you say to that counter argument that says...
It's a nonsense argument because the reason why the music that you play is so popular is because you insisted on playing it. You conditioned people to like that sound, to expect that sound from you.
And the same can happen.
And the same, it
can happen with local music.
Yes, you can rewire yourself and recondition your community as well. It will take a bit of work, and that's your fault because you've conditioned society to like a particular sound. And then secondly, like I said, that there was also an element of sabotage, because why are you playing Dalom kids?
Yes, why are you going
back
so far back? There's music
the 80s
now.
Why aren't you updating the music that you have?
Yeah.
So what do you expect people to say when you're going to play Messi Pagela?
So you're saying there should be effort, and with effort will come sacrifice, because you will lose these listeners.
Yes.
Basically you're saying...
No, but actually you won't lose them, because when they have nowhere to go, they have to grow with you.
Yeah.
So if it becomes a blanket approach, all radio stations, all TV stations, you do the same thing. You play 80% local content.
Yeah.
Not one station doing whatever it wants, and this one is being held to a different standard. If across the board, right, then you are changing and rewiring that conditioning. Because even the fact that we had Black American music introduced so heavily in our communities was
very many years ago
was deliberate, so that we can move from our own type of blackness and identify with that kind of blackness that did not tie us to the land we are in,
from our culture.
Yes, basically a foreign blackness was introduced to us, so that we would not have a connection to the land. That's my take on it anyway.
No, and it's
it was, we were conditioned over like how many decades?
Yeah.
How many decades?
You don't even want to mention.
Right? So naturally people will be like, hey, no, but where's my Luther Vandross? Like I listen to Luther every Sunday on Metro FM.
That's
and now Bamtatile. You know, it's understandable like that. They would feel like that. But leaders understand that it is them that got people to there. So it will be them again who shift them to a different
would you agree with the statement that says, well, apartheid did that? The counter argument would say, well, then it's your turn to change it, isn't it? Because someone can say, well, apartheid did introduce
apartheid government.
Music.
Yes, apartheid government.
Yeah.
So now it's up to our government to change it back.
To reverse it.
And that's why I said that there seems to be no will because kunini.
Yeah.
Kunini. You know, I've even asked Bakanti, what kind of powers does government say, like, you know, have, if it must be us who plead with them to actually put in laws in place that protect, you know, like local art.
Do you think there's a deliberate or not? Because we don't, very often, you know, we blame this entity, but there are people inside it. You wonder why don't they do that simple thing? Do you think there's a deliberate, I don't know why we like this, that we don't care for the arts as much as we should. We appreciate it when we see it and we move past it. Is there something like that that exists within us as people?
No, we actually care for the arts.
Yeah.
We just don't care for the artists.
For the people who create that.
Yes. You know, like, that's why it's so easy to pirate music and stuff like that. We care for the art itself, but...
we know it, we love it, we enjoy it.
Yes. You know, like, we will hear that Ubusimhlongo is suffering and we're like, oh, shame, poor thing. That's it. That's the end of it.
Yeah, I'll be right,
shame. And we continue pirating umculo like... No, like we do love the music, you know.
Yes.
Like if you see South Africans love music.
They love music.
It's just the artists themselves that they may not care that much about.
This is heavy, man. Because it doesn't look like it's something that can easily be fixed. Or it can, as you put it so many times, that there's no effort or willingness to fix it.
Yes.
And that's really at the core of our problem. Is there hope with conversations that are had now? With the leaders that are in power now? Or are they sending RIP messages?
No, I'm hoping for like a new day personally. I've stopped having faith that like the current establishment has the willpower, like the will rather, to make these kinds of changes happen. I'm hoping like for the real new dawn where we'll see these kinds of changes. I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know which political party. But one thing that I know is it's not going to be the ANC. We've given them enough of a chance and they've bungled it all the way. And under COVID, it really for me is the straw that broke the camel's back. Like what we saw during COVID, like the blatant corruption, etc., etc. It has left a very bitter taste in my mouth.
It's a very big straw, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That straw was massive.
Yeah.
Wow. Your conversations building up to the 90% with SABC, how were those? Was that resistance before 90%? From certain quarters? Or Saudi decided, I'm going to do this and the musicians supported and let's carry on? What was the mood like amongst fellow musicians and everybody else? No,
the musicians obviously were all in for it. Like it literally would increase our royalties by like 100%, 150, yes. 200%.
And did it?
Like all of these monies that go... No, but that thing was so short-lived. It
lasted.
Secondly, they didn't have our music in their systems. That's why I say like they had to play about Dalom keys, about Messi Pakela, because they had not updated our music.
Yeah.
You know, like you'd find TKZ here and there. You know, they literally had not uploaded our music.
Yeah.
Right. So then, how would we then earn anything if
it didn't translate to anything?
And the thing that it also like didn't last because even the people were like, Aibo, we can't be like. Bring back Luther Vandross rather.
Yeah.
If you're going to play us.
I'll tell you though, because I was part of it in some small way. I'm on radio, so we're playing the music. The transition, you put it very clearly. There was just not enough music in the catalog. And I was part of the effort to say, you need 10 songs, you have one. Go look for the 9.
Yeah.
And don't look too far. From Simphiwe Dana's album, you're playing one song, put in another 5. from the same album. Spend time listening to the album, not the song that was brought in by the record label to say was pushale. Now it's time to do work as a compiler.
Yes.
And actually listen to the music and not compile. You know, listen to the music, observe what consumers are enjoying. Because part of being a radio person is you go out and watch. You watch. People will tell you the song they like.
It's supposed to be like that.
Exactly. They will tell you. When I go and DJ, I observe what people enjoy. I remember once I was invited to play someplace, the Sofing or somewhere in Soweto, and I played local music, and the guy came up to me and said, are you sure? I said, absolutely. Watch the people. I know you called me to play soul.
But watch the people.
Watch the people. And they were singing along to Amanda Black's song from beginning to end. And you are right in saying that South Africans love the music, local and international.
Yes.
And that's why a genre like Mapiano is a phenomenon.
Oh my God. It has taken, and it's got remnants of Kwaito.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's exactly the story. And interesting, my presentation to Telkom was exactly that. That is exactly what happened in 1993-94. There was this thing bubbling under.
Yes.
And it lasted for 25 years. It's still around.
It's still around even now.
And Mapiano are going to do
but for me, Mapiano is just an extension of Kwaito.
That's
it's
exactly
not so different from Kwaito.
Not at all.
It's like baby Kwaito, maybe, you know.
it's an old car that's been painted.
Yes, exactly. That's
what it is. And that's, for me, I say it is a collective effort by radio stations. A point you made. SABC can do it alone because listeners will leave
and go to
somewhere else.
702.
And 702 is a perfect example in the story because immediately when we said 90%, they increased R&B and soul on weekends and introduced what they do on Sundays. It was never there before that.
Yeah.
It was an obvious move. So that means there has to be a blanket approach.
Yes.
To say...
And we go back to government again.
We have to.
Yeah.
We go back to regulation.
Yes.
And.
Yes.
And we're saying, let's try it for a few years.
Yeah, no, exactly, for a few years.
Let's try it for a few years.
If it took, when did they start playing Black American music in SA?
It is in the 60s.
Listen.
It is in the 60s.
How many years is that now?
It's long.
Dude.
That's why we still, when we play American music, we go back to 60s music that was made in the 60s. It's more than 60s.
And actually, it's more than that, because if you think of Miriam Makeba and them, they were in the 40s.
Yes. It's incredible. So the politics of South African music are not that complicated.
They're not. It's a matter of will. It's literally a matter, and you would never hear artists dying poor. Come on, guys. This thing is so simple. We don't need handouts. Just play our music.
Have you ever
play our music like the same way like with Lalabo, Chris Brown and them? Play our music, and that money is going to come to us.
Yeah.
And the thing is we actually work hard for this money, and then at the point where we must receive it, you guys deprive us of it. And we've worked so hard, and we're like, no, we're not important. We're gonna play with Beyonce. Why, guys? And America, we don't get played on radio.
No, not at all.
You have to pay so much money to get played on radio, like some serious money.
Have you ever gotten to a point where you thought, nah, I'm out in the music business? I have. There was a time I was fighting heavily with my record label,
Universal. And I just felt like giving up. And also, sometimes, living in SA can be a lot, because there's a lot of self-hate here, that gets then transferred to, to
boardrooms.
Yes. And all around, and then and then it's, So, there was a time when I felt like, no, it's this, I've given so much. I can safely say that I've given a lot to my country. And I felt like at times that the response has been unwarranted and unfair. Right? And then I felt like perhaps I've outgrown SA. And it's time for me to chart new paths so I can also create new spaces for other artists coming from SA. So it was not necessarily in a negative way that I was saying that, no, perhaps it's time to either quit this
Yeah.
and do something else.
This market.
Yes,
Yeah.
or go elsewhere so that I can open new markets for local artists, right? You know, because there was a time when I felt like I had kind of like hit the ceiling here. My music, it's grown.
Yes.
So yes, like a part of me does, like now, I had opportunities to leave SA. You know, I'm one of the very few artists who had actually great opportunities to leave SA and do something outside. And I stayed because of my children. I was raising kids, you know, and I wanted them to be raised in a stable environment. And I knew that if I go to Europe, for instance, they're not going to have the same comforts that they would have here at home.
Yeah.
You know, so I stayed. And now my daughter has finished matric. My son is doing grade 11. I want to start that process again of moving, of going to Europe, but I want to be in both countries, right? But us who have been around for a while and who have an international appeal, I feel like it's our duty to go out there and introduce our music and open doors for those artists that come after us. And yes, I've delayed that process because of kids, and I don't have regrets about that.
Yeah.
But now I can start to,
really look at that plan again.
Yes, we look at that plan again, and I feel like I'm lucky enough to still look young.
No, completely. In my world, you look 29.
I can go and not reinvent myself, but literally just start over again.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Yes.
But still having a strong South African market. So
yes, I don't want. Yes, I want to take my market with me, and I want to find ways to also, like I said, create spaces for those that come, hold up the SA brand name when it comes to music and give it the gravitas that it has. It has, and it deserves to be seen. Yes.
How is it that we've lacked, and I'm changing a course just for 1 second, I'll come back to this. How is it that Miriam Makebas of our time, the Hugh Masikelas of our time, and so many, that the list goes on, were able to help? And I know they were exiled and so forth, but they sustained the gravitas that we speak of right now. And for some reason, you look at it and say, things have changed slightly. What has happened? Is it again because of our own patriotism and supporting it? Or was it the coincidence of time? They were born at a time when they had no choice but to leave the country and go sell the music elsewhere.
Yeah, it's like you said, you said put aside the exile, but it is actually the exile.
It's the coincidence of the time.
Yes, it was the exile. They were well supported outside of SA.
That's true.
And if you look at it, Miriam Makeba's decline started when she came back to SA. Busim Tlongo's decline back to SA. The one thing that Hugh Masekela didn't do was come back here.
He never really came back.
Yes, and that's how he stayed okay.
Yeah.
Even Jonas Kwang was not doing so well because he came back to SA, and there was no nurture element for artists in South Africa.
Let us agree that if this recording achieves one thing, is that it conscientizes South Africans to the fact that yes, South Africans love the music. South Africans have to buy the music. 2. 3, South Africans as a nation, as a country, as a society, as a government, as all the entities have to support the arts and the artists beyond just, we will do it, yes, we will.
But it starts with the leadership.
It does.
People get influenced. Our leaders are the biggest influencers.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So it starts with government making sure that radio stations play our music.
Best.
The people will follow. People can be conditioned positively as they can be conditioned negatively too.
Your international aspirations, they come with a lot of sacrifice. When you get into a flight with literally all your underwears, there's none left here in South Africa, and you're saying, I'm going to try whatever comes with. That takes a lot of effort. And when you get there, like you did and came to Joburg and wahlala 2 weeks in somebody's house and so forth, the story is likely to play itself similar with a few more comforts than before.
Yes.
Is it something that you're mentally ready for, or you're slowly getting yourself ready for that?
I'm a survivor, man. I mean, I'm a village girl. Like, nothing can faze me like that.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that I'm not 19 and I'm not 20 anymore, like when I came to Joburg. Now I've got a house, I've got kids.
Yeah.
I've got many more responsibilities, right? So yes, make those big leaps of faith when you are younger, hey?
That's the opportunity.
Yes, when you've got less responsibilities. But for me, the fact that my kids are finished studying now, like, I had to wait for that.
Yeah.
I had to postpone my dreams of an international career for a bit while I was raising my kids, and because I made that decision to have my kids and I wanted them to have a stable environment. I don't like this thing to artists kids don't get a stable upbringing. So I didn't want that to be my children.
Yeah.
So I did that, and now I'm making a safe leap of faith.
True. You parachute.
Yes, exactly.
You're not just jumping out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and hope it works.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, there's that part, but I have some backup plans, nyana, because I'm an adult.
No, of course.
Yeah.
You can't just.
I can't just I was born.
They'll be fine. They'll manage.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is something that could happen any minute now. Mm-hmm. So we're waiting.
Yeah, no, guys, you must please come with me in spirit, and I will need all of your support and all of your well wishes and all of that good energy.
Of course,
Yeah.
When do you remember when you when you felt most loved? Not only necessarily by South African fans of your music, but just the feeling of I'm good, man. I'm loved. Because it's the feeling that we want as people.
The first time would be the Cape Town Jazz Festival.
Okay.
It was 2005. My album had just come out in June the year before, around March.
It wasn't old.
No, it was hardly a year.
Yeah.
It was not even a year old. Huh. And I was booked for the Cape Town Jazz Festival.
Was that a surprise? Because that's a big call-up.
It's a big one, yes. So I was booked in a small venue. I mean, I'm a new artist, so naturally I'm going to get Kippy's stage.
I know.
Yes.
The tiny little one
like
there.
The tiny one.
But it gets a good crowd.
Yes.
Yeah, tiny, intimate, noisy crowd.
I'm very happy with the stage. I'm very, very happy.
Yeah.
I'm at the Cape Town Jazz Festival. International.
You know
baby.
what I mean?
So we get on stage, we start to perform.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes, there's commotion. I don't understand what's going on. I'm like, should I stop? Should I continue? And we try and continue. And then I think towards we see there's commotion, but we don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Now we're on stage. And then maybe second last song, one of the organizers, Upili Domingo, actually, comes on stage. Sorry, Simphiwe, we have to announce that we will also move you to a second stage tonight. We've had a problem with people trying to get into the venue, and the venue is too small and people are demanding.
That's not a bad problem.
No, but I'm saying that's when I started feeling like I was loved.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? And then the story comes out, but no, there were paramedics, people broke bones trying to get into this venue. And that same night, I was then moved to the bigger stage, outside stage.
I know.
And I performed twice and I met some ching-ching.
Wow. And all because of the love you were getting.
Yes. And then it came out that I was the second artist that has happened with. The first one was Miriam Makeba on that stage.
Yes,
right?
Years earlier.
Yes, and now I'm hardly a year in the industry at that time.
Wow.
That's when I knew, but okay, something magical happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have emceed the tiny stage. I know it. It's a peaceful place. Abantu abahluphi apha because on the other side kuna Jonas Gwangwa uyacula or whatever it is, the Khomu. And then that side there's so and so. There's some big international artists on that side. Tina's up. It's small, it's intimate. We don't make noise.
Yes, calm, Jake.
It's calm. There's probably 100 chairs, but there's only 70 people. We're good. I didn't know there's ever been a commotion at that stage.
No, listen, there was a commotion on that stage, and I hope that Cape Jazz will always tell that story because it makes me feel so good.
Wow. Yes, young artist that's just broke bones.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's come to some of the most useless questions before we go. First kiss.
Oh my God, I actually got into such trouble for that.
That's funny. How did they find out?
I wrote a love letter to this boy. And then the principal intercepted it.
Oh, my daughter.
And then it turns out that another girl wrote a love letter to the same boy.
He was popular.
And this boy was playing. No, he was playing the both of us. Now imagine that the principal finds out my first kiss. This guy telling about the first kiss, how nice it was. I love you so much. I think the other girl also wrote a love note. We were both intercepted. So we were ashamed and paraded in front of the whole school. But instead of focusing on our studies, we were busy with this boy. And the boy was new at school.
Jeez.
You know, and then we got our punishment.
Yeah, eh?
You know, so that was my first kiss. It does not. It doesn't
have a good
memory.
Story, eh? Do you still remember the boy?
What was his name again? Ndiko? I don't know, something like that. It was a long time.
Was it well, at that age, you're not sure what to call it. Was it an infatuation or a true feeling of
I think it was infatuation. We were kids. We were kids. We were trying to play, and enact what we see on TV.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, even saying we love a boy at 13. Come on. What do you know about love at 13?
The first time you fell in love. Do you remember who's that?
There was a boy. His name was Sebenzile.
He's gonna see this and be so happy.
I don't care. It was still like around the same time, 15, 16.
Yeah.
Very cute boy. Like, you know, he came from a rich family, always driving fancy cars.
Okay.
And now we all come from this poor family looking at this like boys our age driving cars and thinking, oh, he's so cool. Yeah, that was my first car crush. I must have been around about 15, 16.
Proper crush.
Yes.
You felt the weight because a crush is heavy to carry.
But luckily, I never gave him that love letter I wrote. Thank God.
You didn't?
No.
You could have done the same letter.
No.
Oh, you did write a letter. You never delivered.
No, I didn't deliver
I'm
it.
just checking.
No, I didn't deliver it.
Wow. It's such an interesting one. The first time you felt independent from, and you can never feel that as a black South African in most instances, independent from the weight of family and responsibility. Has that feeling come to you yet?
Or feeling free of it?
Free of it.
I don't think it has come. I just have rebelled. There was a time that I rebelled against the idea. Like, remember when you were talking about parentified kids and stuff. And there coming a time when you rebel against, you know, this responsibility that you never chose.
Yes, and
to begin with.
And you felt that, wow, okay, I've taken the bag off. And
so like there was a time that I said, actually,
I don't want to do this anymore.
No.
Was there
But it was not in a healthy way. It was like I'm hurtful. Like,
pretty much.
It's enough, you know. And then, so it wasn't so balanced. I went to the other end. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to, don't tell me about your problems. Who cares about my problems? No one cares about my problems.
Didn't they say, uzenza ngcono? We celebrate manje.
Yes, like there were those elements, but I mean they were not new. Even before I was, because I was the one who had it most together. It had followed me around that thing, blah blah blah. It was nothing new, and I had, by the time I rebelled, I had learned that it's not about me when they do that. It's to protect themselves from not getting help from me.
That's
Guilt trip me into continuing to be this person. South
Africans, we like taking pictures of keys in a townhouse. It's our favorite thing. We do bundle of joy, and we do keys. Take a picture and it sees the sliding door over there. First place that you said, from not paying rent all the time to now I have my own place. Take me to that time and how it felt. A village girl who now is in Joburg and une kia zake.
I used to jog past this house almost every morning when I was an avid jogger. Okay, actually, I used to walk past the house, like when I was warming up, walk, and then I start jogging. And every time I would pass this house, I would stand and look in. Wow. I was like, this house is so cute. And then, like soon after, it was on sale. I went there and I was like, listen, this is my house. Just tell me what you want. Don't bother with anyone else. And I got the house.
What?
I've had that house now since my son was 2 months old. So 17 years.
Same house that you
Same
fell in
house.
love with.
Yes. And I've built it up now. I have an upstairs, fixed up, like, you know, like.
That's amazing. That's a good
Yes.
story.
For me, that was one of the most important things that I had to do as someone who's had a very tumultuous,
Yeah.
you know, childhood and stuff. Stability was everything. So first thing, I mean, I bought a car maybe 10, 15 years after I bought
So
a
the house mattered more.
The house was more important for me.
Why was that? Because we buy cars in South Africa.
Because-
Excuse the punt of a company called We Buy Cars.
Because I had never really had a home that I felt I could call home and, you know, not feel like I'd be chucked out or something like that, you know. So having a home for me was very important.
Now, at your age, where do you call home besides your home?
The Eastern Cape.
Yeah. As a whole or specific
Yes.
place?
As a whole. Imisebenzi yam, like imisebenzi yasekhaya yenzelwe ekhaya kakhulu, like we
Yeah. The
got that,
granddads.
yes.
Yeah.
And I've got family in the Eastern Cape, but I call the whole of Eastern Cape home because I feel so connected. And increasingly, actually, you know, like last year was very weird for me. Like I'm being very much drawn to the Eastern Cape, and I'm seeing that I'm not the only one. There's a lot of us, you know, who didn't, you know, pay too much mind to the Eastern Cape. All of a sudden, we're being drawn back there. We're being drawn
You're
back.
going back.
Yes, and when we land there, there's a certain connection. Like, maybe let me talk about myself. That I feel when I'm there. You know.
Interesting. You know, when I used to work for Metro, we used to go to PE a lot to do the Metro Awards, and I fell in love with PE so much so that I know New Bright quite well. That I can drive around New Brighton on my own without being told where to go. And that's how much my ancestors are based in Limpopo. I think I feel something when I'm in PE. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to call it. I don't know how to define it, but it's a great feeling. And I think one day I'll have a home there. It's just a matter of time. I don't know why I feel that way, but I love it. This is the moment on this recording where I want you to give credit to people. Your most important support structure in your life.
My sister has been like, she literally has been my partner in raising my kids.
Whoa.
My sister came to live with me when she was 16. So in many ways, I consider her my firstborn.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes, but she has been like such a force in my life. I don't think that I would be falling apart like without my sister.
Wow.
So there's her, and they're the people that helped me sign on. You know, like that people that I wouldn't have a career without. Well, that's perhaps I wouldn't have a career without. There are all the people that have made my music, you know, gave it the gravitas that, you know, it has when it comes to producing the music. There are the record labels who have respected my work and gave me the space, you know, to freely
to create
explore.
it the way you want.
Yes. I would be nothing without those. There's my mother who believed in me. Even at times when no parent would agree. She'd be like, she would say, Mtanam, I have faith in you. You've never disappointed me. You know, you've always done what you said you would do, and your reasons have turned out to be sound. So if you want to do this, I support you. For instance, leaving that bursary, no parent would have said yes to that.
No way.
Exactly.
And even a scholar.
Yes.
No way.
Yes. So all of that, you know, and then I want to also thank a lot of I have a lot of friends who helped me raise my kids. Remember, I'm a single parent. Abu Uncle Kaya, Abu Uncle Kranti, Abu Uncle Vista, like that. There are so many. And it's actually weird that I've had a lot of gay men helping me raise my kids.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Yes.
So that community that helped me raise my kids. And lastly, the audiences that have kept my sound alive for the past. We are now in 2022. I came out in 2004.
Yes, so
18
it's almost
years.
18 years.
Yes, for the past 18 years. I literally am nothing.
And they are avid fans.
Without them, yes. I am nothing without the people that listen to my music and have kept me around by appreciating my work and being very vocal about their appreciation of my work.
They don't just...
Yes.
They show it.
Yes, and my ancestors as well for giving me the intuition and giving me the music, the gifts, and for protecting me. And exactly, again, bringing me my ancestors who helped me guide and all of this, guiding me and giving me the gifts that I have. Lastly, my children for loving me unconditionally. My partner as well for helping me with the healing. I'm very thankful. I have a lot of people to thank.
I can imagine, eh?
Yeah.
How is it raising your kids? What kind of kids are they?
I raised them how I would have liked to be raised.
Not spoiled.
No, not spoiled, but raising them, and giving them a voice.
Democracy.
Yeah, everything can be negotiated, but I have the last word as the parent.
Of course.
And I tell them why. When it comes to that, I'm like, you also need to remember that you guys are still growing up. You are not experienced in many things. I have lived through life, and I'm here in life as your guide. So yes, I will listen to you, and I'll try and reason with you, but ultimately, as your guardian, I'm the one who knows best.
True, I've gone this
Yes,
past
we will discuss with you and I'll hear all your grievances on your side and your arguments, but ultimately I'm the one who decides. But not without consulting with you.
Of course, so they know, we're going to negotiate this one.
Yes. It can be talked out, but you have to convince me.
Have you been convinced a few times?
Yes.
And you said, okay.
Yeah.
So you're not rigid.
I'm not unreasonable. So when I put my foot down, they know that, okay, it's serious because, I'm open to my mind being changed.
Because you've taken a lot of pictures with them on social media. They look a lot like you. The daughter looks completely like you.
Yeah.
And so I imagine they grow up with looking up to this character who is larger than life in a lot of ways. Do they aspire to be like you in every other way?
Oh God, I hope not. Well, my daughter wants to get into drama, into a bit of music, into a bit of
There's
healing,
a little bit of you.
I am open to whoever they want to become. As long as they're not just fluffing around. They must must not waste time and resources and all that.
Yeah.
I want to give my kids the same opportunity that my mom gave me, that of being able to follow their passions, their calling.
That is the ultimate opportunity.
Yes.
To say, open the door.
Yes.
Go. But I'll be there, don't worry. That is the ultimate gift.
Yes. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Any advice to parents? You're likely to repeat the same phrase. Any advice to parents that are watching this who are raising young kids? What do you say to them?
As much as kids' minds are not fully formed and we are here as their guides, we still need to see them as complete human beings outside of ourselves, not an extension of ourselves. And if we do that, we will avoid a lot of problems that then come up as they grow in their teenage years and all of this and all of this. If you see them as little individuals, little people, but people, then our approach to them, we'll treat them like how we would like to be treated.
Pretty
much as we know that we are their guardians, But if you see them as people and then you ask yourself, how would I feel if someone said this to me? I think a lot of the times we look at abuse as discipline because it happened to us. And if we are to avoid many of the pitfalls that we ourselves have gotten into because of our upbringing, we have to change the way that you can't say, and I've turned out
I'm gonna
well.
do the same.
So I must do like you literally have to interrogate, but have you really turned out well? Like, don't lie to yourself.
Interesting you say that. It's a question I've been asking myself the past few years, 2 years or so, if I've turned out well. And after time, I don't come up with a good answer.
Yes.
I worry about that.
I think many people, because we normalize, abnormal situations, and then we think because we've normalized them, then everything is okay.
Then it's
But
normal.
actually, if I see this a lot with African kids, maybe of my generation, maybe these ones, not so much. We have huge self-esteem issues.
We're carrying a lot.
Huge self-esteem issues. And part of that is also how we are raised, to not question, to not do this, to not, question yes, all of this. It has cultivated in us.
Yeah.
That thing, but you must be withdrawn, like you can't stand up for yourself to an adult and all of this thing, and it may not be good for our progress because abantwana, they need to stand up for themselves, then they are fearful of authority.
Of course.
And then there's a chance of them being bullied by authority because they're so fearful of it that they don't know how to stand for themselves.
Yeah.
And that is part of our legacy of this
never-ending loop.
Corporal punishment or whatever it's called.
Do you know, I want to conclude this. I normally hit it at 3 hours. We are there. We've done really well. There's a question that Shakes is saying I should ask you about natural hair. Natural hair products. Why is that an important thing?
Actually, that whole conversation was inspired by my daughter. My daughter, from a very early age, she realized that there were no good products for natural hair out there in the market.
Okay.
And she started making her own, right? To take an avocado and mix with castor oil, do that and that and that. Like, I don't know any person who has not studied about hair who knows more about natural hair than my daughter.
Wow.
And this came about because she couldn't find anything good in the market. And having seen her efforts, right, and the kind of information she had managed to find as a result, I wanted to actually help her, take that on a larger scale, take it out to how we have so much misinformation about how to treat our hair, and it took like a young girl observing the hair and trying different things to see what works, not what is being said works by the market.
Jeez.
And therefore, that's why now I'm starting a journey of doing something about it. But, everyone knows that I've been an advocate for natural hair for the longest time. And that's why I even raise kids
in that
who
way.
appreciate,
Yes.
It's
a human thing, which I support.
I
support.
That non-wigs thing, as he would never win that shit.
As we conclude, what are Abakulu saying about your move internationally?
Oh, they support it.
Yeah.
They support it. It's a matter of listening to their guidance so I know when to jump. It's all about guidance.
Yeah.
It's all about intuition and, being open, listening to your guides. But they support the move.
They're saying, I see.
Yes.
Yeah, we're waiting for you.
It's time.
We're waiting for you to buy the ticket.
It's time to go now. It wasn't time before. Now it's time. And so
but we're not losing you.
No, not even close. Like literally, I'll be hit 1 month here, 1 month there, 1 month here, and I'm not leaving my home. In fact, I actually plan. I want to move to the coast. I want to move to Port St. John's.
Oh, okay.
I want to be in the Eastern Cape. I'm being drawn there. I want to have a little plot of land by the sea where I can walk to the sea every day if I want. So I definitely am not leaving home. I'm just going to straddle both continents.
Which is nothing wrong.
Yes.
Until I met
Tira.
I always thought he lived in KZN.
He does.
Until I interviewed him. No, he lives in Joburg.
He lives in both.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
But he's able to remain such a KZN guy that you honestly think he sleeps in KZN
every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. So you can do it without us really realizing.
Yes.
You know,
no one needs to know.
No.
Yeah.
Where you are.
Yeah.
You're just a global.
No, whether I'm in Port St. John's or I'm in South Africa or in the UK or wherever, no one needs to know. You know, as long as you know when you're looking for me, you find me.
And you'll pick up.
Yes.
Why the UK? You keep making
it's
that
not
reference.
the UK. It's Europe.
Europe.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's not the UK. It's Europe.
Why Europe and not necessarily the States? Just asking.
I don't know. It's the kind of music that I do.
Okay.
I will have to go to the States via Europe.
Let them find you.
Yes.
Elsewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I find like e-market say US iyafana kakhulu market lapha
South Africa.
in SA. You know, it's very much poppy. Like
very dancey.
Yes, the in thing right now,
and
etc. It's not like Radio 2000.
It pops. Radio 2000 is hot, man. At home. In my world, you're an absolute star, and it's one that has been shining for a long, long time. We have those. One of them is a sun that we have every day. Mm-hmm. It's a tiny little star. They call it the yellow dwarf in scientific language, believe it or not. It's not even scientific, this phrase. It's been our source of energy for a long, long, long time. It'll outlive us as humans on this planet, and you're one of those. You know, your shine and the energy we draw from your music as ordinary South Africans will stay generations to come. Musicians like you come once in a while, and we're lucky that you're one of them. I am extremely lucky to have you. When I got a call, and the call was, she said, yes, I couldn't believe it. I've had you on my show a few times. You've competed. You brought, I remember one day.
I still can't believe you guys didn't like that song. No, I don't like the list.
I don't even remember what song it was.
Yeah, Makalina. Like, it was a very lovely song. I was like, these people are like, no, it's a pop song. I'm like, no, something is wrong with you.
Let's agree that South African fans take a little bit of a minute to enjoy a song, and once they do, they'll tell everybody about it. And that's really what it was. But in conclusion, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the music. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for remaining so easy, so natural. And thank you for your activism. Your voice is seen, is heard, and it can never and should never stop. And I like that you made reference to how sometimes you don't, not necessarily you, but those that are activists, they'll stop because life makes them stop. You don't seem to be stopping, and we like that. And I like how you simplified the state of South Africa. Us as people, we are not quite sure what's going on, where we are, what story are we telling, and that reflects itself in so many things. And I like that you described that so well, and I hope South Africans will see this and appreciate that description. And it pushes all of us to say, find something, your little corner somewhere, and define a story. In Mamelodi, go and make a garden with kids and start that, and that becomes a thing.
Yes.
And who knows how far it'll go. And I say to you, you're an amazing artist. I get emotional. You're an incredible artist, and we're lucky that you continue to make the music you make. May your ancestors never ever stop giving us the messages.
Thank you.
Maine in your life, and maine to all of us as South Africans. Thank you so much. Simphiwe Dana.
Siyabulela Nkosi. Ndiyabulela futhi nakubamameli be-podcast yakho. Ndiyabulela King David. Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure.
Yeah.
You are one of the good ones when it comes to your work, your professionalism, etc., etc. So thank you so much for your existence as well.
Yeah.
Siyabulela.
I'm one of the good ones.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. That's Simphiwe Dana, everybody. We hit 3 hours and 4 minutes. I think we're going to cut it somewhere because there was things that we are not supposed to hear.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you again.
King David Studio Podcast.